Is that it? Okay. Everybody's fine? Very good. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ian Burgess. I'm the Mental Capacity Act Lead at Bradford Council, and I've been asked to chair this meeting by the Strategic Director. That question before I start, can everybody hear me okay? And can everyone understand what I'm saying?
Can you just confirm who the Strategic Director is?
Yes, Bev Maybury.
Bev Maybury, okay.
Okay, so there's the order which provides, from the court, which provides that there'll be a best interest meeting in respect of Mrs. Begum.
Mm-hmm.
This is just to look at the next phase of care, as it were, where she's going to live. So anything else isn't really what we're going to be considering. It's just where she's going to live. Is everyone agreed on that? We're all okay with that?
I disagree with that.
Well, that's what the order says. So, what, just for curiosity, what?
Well, like I said, I'm going to allow yourselves to, obviously, whatever agenda it is, then I'll obviously interject then. Because obviously this is an agenda that you created, yes?
Sure.
I've not been consulted regarding this agenda.
Okay.
Okay, so, but I'll allow you to proceed, and then obviously I'll interject when it's appropriate.
So first of all, I'll tell you, before we do anything else, I am just going to go around the table and just ask everyone just to introduce themselves, if that's okay. So I'll start with Sue.
I'm Sue Ledger. I work for Bradford Council and I'm the minute taker for today.
Hi, I'm Alex Lyon. I work at Switolski Solicitors. We're acting on FB's behalf on the ongoing court of protection proceedings.
Okay.
I'm Nadia Muslim, Service Manager. I work for Bradford Council.
Shazzy Bibi, interpreter. Not that I would, can't say I'm needed, but
Shazzy Bashir, social.
Veronica Mullins, Financial Deputy.
Megan Garrett, I'm a paralegal at Anderson Solicitors.
I'm Pip Mary, Social Worker at Bradford Council.
This is Talib Hussain and myself, Shazad Hussain, sons of Miss Begum.
Trudy Bean, Team Manager at Eastern West London.
Christine, Chief Manager.
Legal at Bradford Council.
Okay, thank you. I mean, just with the notes to the family, I just want to say it's, I'm really grateful to you for coming today. This is really helpful that you're here. I say this all the time to family members as well. It's for yourselves, you love Mrs. Begum, your family. We're all here in sort of professional capacity, so we don't have the same. So if it has become difficult in any way, or if it becomes a bit upsetting,
I understand.
we're happy to take a break.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. The purpose of the meeting then is, as ordered by the court, that the Bradford Council social workers, PIP particularly, the decision maker, needs to make a decision about what the position is for the next hearing. Are we all agreed on this? This is the purpose of the meeting. So it's a bit unusual because in a best interest meetings aren't formalised in law as such. The reason for them is under Section 4.
No, please tell me the section.
Section 4 of the Mental Capacity Act,
okay,
which provides that any decision maker.
Section what, sorry?
Section 4. So the decision maker, when it's in best interest for a person who doesn't have capacity, has got to take on board the views of other people.
Okay.
And so in this, what we're looking at is, because when I get to the format of the meeting, I'm to give you an opinion. On the one hand, you may be saying that it's practically your own opinion as to what you think should happen, but then we're also going to be looking at what Mrs. Begum's original feelings are.
Okay.
If she was sat here, what would she be saying to us that she wants to do? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Have you any questions on that?
No, I haven't.
Okay. So then the structure of the meeting, and I intend to get this, I would hope we can have this finished by 5 o'clock. We don't have people elsewhere to be, so but we'll see how it goes. Structure of the meeting then, I'm going to invite anybody who wants to, everyone's going to have the opportunity to speak about what their view is. These were the 3 options that we've got down, but if there's other options, by all means we can put other options down. And so it's just to say what, for instance, what you would think about, what your view is, where Mrs. Begum should be, and we'll look at the pros and cons of that.
Just for reference, what are the 3 options that you mentioned?
Well, there's 3 options that are on there, but that's not exhaustive though.
Okay.
Someone's got another option. If the aim of this is for Pip, as a social worker, to work out what's going to be in Mrs. Begum's best interest. So if you've got something else that isn't there,
okay, right.
by all means, because that would help you make the decision. That's the whole purpose, is to help you make a decision. Which way that actually goes is entirely up to the judge.
Just sorry to interrupt again.
No.
So 3 options. We're all here today. Hopefully finishing by 5 o'clock.
Yes.
Okay.
There are some sort of I don't like saying ground rules, not have ground rules, but there's just because there's a going to be confidential with this.
Okay, go ahead.
Is he in pain?
No, it's all right.
Saying he's in pain.
No, it's all right.
Okay. So because this is confidential, I'm going to ask that there's no electronic recording made of anything in here. Sometimes I will record things on my phone to make it easy. We've got a minute taker, so I don't need to do that. Similarly, these agendas, I'd like to collect these in if I can, just because it's got confidential information on it, and this will all be shredded. We've got the minute taker. I'm going to scratch some notes down, mainly just to keep me on track with the meeting, just so I can remember where I'm up to, or I might want to come back to something. Similarly, anything I write down is going to be shredded. I'm not going to keep a record of that. Is that okay with everyone? Does anybody have any questions?
Shazad, you're not recording with your glasses, are you?
I'm not, no.
Oh. Okay.
Are you satisfied?
If you're saying that.
Oh, well, okay. I mean, just for the record, I would have no way of enforcing anything such as that anyway. It's just that I'm asking. That's just a request. Me and I have to give back phones anyway, though. So nobody's got any questions so far. Are we okay then if we just make a start now? Mr. Hussain, I'm going to invite you first if that's okay.
With all due respect, I'm going to go last.
Oh, alright. Okay, fine. Okay. I'll ask then the advocate for Mrs. Begum if we can, or do we need to?
If we could wait for Natalie, that
Wait
would
for
be
Natalie?
appreciated, yeah, if that's okay.
Okay. Bev, may I ask?
Do we need to wait for Natalie so she hears what's...
Well,
we.
I would say that, with all due respect, I would say that because when was the last time Natalie met my mother?
It was a couple of months ago.
Do you remember which month? It
Not-
was the 17th of July 2019. Is that correct? Does that sound right?
that sounds-
Okay. So it's been over 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
She's not met my mother, so I don't understand what input that she could provide at this stage. I do understand there's a meeting for her to come and visit my mother, but that I believe is on the 17th. So as it stands today, I'm just struggling to understand what, considering that she's not met my mother.
Yeah. Again, this is the night before the call. We're just here to gather information.
Yeah.
Okay, to answer your question, because it's you that needs. I mean, I don't see any harm in that. In you talking now.
Yeah.
Just because I don't want to keep waiting, because it's now 1:15. We could be in another 10-15 minutes, and we're still waiting. So I'd rather press on. If that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's absolutely fine.
So I'm just asking what you think might be in Mrs. Begum's best interest and what the.
Well, Shazia and I last saw Mrs. Begum on the 17th of December. We visited the home, the property on Morris Street. We were able to complete the best we could the social care assessment for Mrs. Begum, and our conclusion at that time was that her needs were being met where she is. She'd come to no harm where she is. In fact, there was no difference in her presentation at all from when we'd last seen her through the summer. So there was no weight loss, no difference in the presentation. And our conclusion, I feel, Shazia and I felt that it would be better for Mrs. Begum to stay where she is.
Although we couldn't get a lot of information from the carer, Bev daughter, we just felt that there was no difference from the April until December in terms of there was no weight loss or anything. She appeared to be well in fact. So we couldn't justify removing her at that time.
So in terms of like her happiness,
Yeah.
was there any indication?
She seemed settled, content where she was. She had a good rapport with her daughter. We saw her with her daughter. She certainly wasn't saying that she didn't want to be there. There was nothing that caused me a concern
Okay.
that she was somewhere where she shouldn't be,
Okay.
where she wasn't getting the care that she needed.
Okay. I mean, has anyone got any views on like her connections with Bradford? Is there anything that she's missing by being in Oldham, for instance?
Well, she has her own home in Bradford. I've not seen that home, but my colleagues Judy and Shazia have. And I think Mr. Hussain might agree that it's not in a fit state at the moment for his mum to return to, am I right?
I would agree with you, considering there's been a great deal of maintenance issues considering these court proceedings. That as it presently stands, I mean, if I wouldn't feel very comfortable with taking my mother there today, let's just say
Right,
that.
okay.
But the issues with the house, it's a housing association house,
Right.
there's no structural issues, it's just basically untidy.
Okay. And is there a,
It is adapted.
Yes.
That's one thing. It is
It's an
adapted.
It's adapted
Oh,
for, sorry to,
No.
it's adapted for,
This is good,
yeah,
yeah.
it's adapted for, basically ground floor, access to a wet room.
Mhm.
And I've installed a stair lift to give her access to all 3 floors.
right, okay,
So it's on a 3-story, as soon as you walk in, you go downstairs, which is the kitchen,
yeah,
and my mother's living quarters, like a room for my mother,
Mhm.
or a separate room for my mother. As soon as you walk in, there's several rooms on the first floor, including both a bathroom and a shower room,
okay.
and upstairs there are 3 bedrooms.
I mean, forgive me, I don't know anything about
Yeah,
Mrs.
yeah,
Begum,
yeah.
that's
Okay.
one of the reasons why I'm here.
But that's not actually correct, is it? We were having a discussion downstairs, you have been made aware of the situation back in August 2018.
I'm not gonna talk about that, this is pure, I'm gonna stick with this.
Okay.
I actually haven't heard, I don't know, and I was gonna ask about your mother's mobility.
Oh, yeah.
So that's what I'm asking.
yeah.
I
But
don't
you
know.
have been aware of my mother's situation.
I know that she exists, but that's about it.
And you also know that we have tried to arrange a meeting with yourself.
That's not for the purpose of this meeting.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
But that, just to clarify that we have communicated.
We've had communication, I think.
To
yeah.
arrange a meeting. That's correct.
Yes.
In August 20.
Yes, I'm taking your word for it now, I can't remember.
I've got good memory. It's August 2018.
Alright,
Okay. Alright.
But nonetheless, I was asking about your mum's mobility. What's she like? I mean, does she, when she's accessing these parts of the property, is she
Okay.
independent or?
Well, I picked Mary to come in, and what were their assessments regarding the mobility when you visited?
Your mum was able to stand independently from the bed. She walked a few steps over to the door, walked back without assistance. She was quite steady on her feet.
Well, I would like to say that while she's remaining at my sister's house, she has full mobility on that ground level. So I would, so she's able to mobilize herself from a seated position, from a lying position to a seated position, from a seated position to a standing position, which has been observed. From a standing position, walk all the way. I think you've been to the property all the way to the back door. So that's when.
So she's not missing out on anything by the sound of it in where she's at then?
Missing out in what regard?
She's not isolated and stuck in one particular room in Oldham. She's able to get around and move
Yes,
around.
she does,
That's kind of what I'm looking
Yes.
at.
The only issue that we've had is that obviously there's no shower facilities.
In Bradford or Oldham?
No, in Oldham.
In Oldham, okay.
There's no ground floor shower facilities, which obviously there are in Bradford.
Right, okay. So Pitlin, just to confirm, your position, your view, as it might change at the end of this meeting,
It may well do.
but your view right now is that Mrs. Begum, by the way, I'm referring to Mrs. Begum,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
gonna be anonymised, of course, it's gonna be.
And just to clarify, there are 2 Mrs. Begums,
Your sister?
Z Begum and F Begum, so if you just make that quite clear.
Yes, okay. Yeah, we're okay on that, thank you. We'll refer to as FB and ZB on
Yeah,
this.
okay, alright.
So your view is though, as things stand, remaining in Oldham would be in her best interest because she seems happy, she's got family
Yeah.
around.
Most of her family are able to visit her, from what Shazia and I can ascertain, that there's just one member of the family who doesn't visit,
And which is that?
and that's your brother Adara, who I've got a statement from to be read out
Okay.
for the meeting.
Okay. Just regarding the family contact and relation contact, I would just like to say that as I've arrived here today, my mother has had visitors, relatives, not family members, but relatives
Right.
that are there now visiting her.
Right.
So often, in the outside of just family, immediate family, we have rishtadar, relatives, okay, close family friends and stuff. So they've actually visited today, and they often come. What often happens is visitors normally come from Bradford to Oldham to attend like funeral services. Because we have a lot of Asian community, the same Asian community that's in Bradford. We have an Asian community, especially in this Glodwick area. So often what happens is family members people from Bradford, relatives do come over to attend funerals, services, and then they come and visit, and that was one of the visits today. So she's had contact with a relative today,
Right, good.
and with regards to any immediate family, her biological family, as of Miss Neri has said, the only contact that's not happened is by Adalat. Other than that, her son Adalat, who I would just like to point out at this stage, because these are court proceedings, that he was made a party to the proceedings, and it should be noted that whilst he was a party to the proceedings, he had legal representation at those proceedings, these welfare proceedings. He was made a party of them. He was legally represented, and he chose not to he chose not to involve himself. That should be clarified. So, although Mr. Meneri's now had a statement from him, he has been afforded ample opportunity since the court proceedings started in April,
Right.
and he had been made party of the proceedings to weigh in his views or inputs, considering that he was legally represented at that stage as well.
Right.
I think a decision has been made by the judge to withdraw both my sister Shaida and my brother Adalat from these proceedings, simply because there was no engagement from them.
But for the purposes of this meeting, though, I don't know, I don't need to know that. None of that stuff, we're interested in the views of anybody who's got an interest in the welfare of that person. So it's okay for him to make a representation like that.
Today is, yes. But it should be made in the context that, obviously, he's had opportunities to make representations in the past.
Maybe he changed his mind, I don't know. I don't know the dynamics of the family,
Okay,
so. But, I'm just thinking back to when you met with Mrs. Begum. Has she expressed a desire to go anywhere else? Has she said about, or has she expressed a desire to remain where she is, or to go anywhere else?
She hasn't.
To yourselves at least?
No, she hasn't. She's been quite confused really as to where she
Oh dear,
is at
okay.
the moment, what Bradford means. We have tried several approaches with her, photographs and things like that. We
Okay.
just felt that she didn't possibly remember Bradford, because it has been 14 months since she last lived in Bradford.
Okay.
Okay.
You said she's confused. Would you say that she was content?
She seems
Yeah.
content,
Though
yes.
confused, she seems content.
She does.
Okay, I think that's a valid point.
Yeah, she does.
And with regards to her confusion, obviously, I think I don't need to go around the table to explain to you what dementia is. You understand, it can affect people differently. I would argue that there's better times. It's a spectrum condition. Depending on the day and time you speak to somebody, you understand, they can be confused. So I would agree that sometimes she does get confused. Where she is in orientation and space and time, I would say yes.
I'm just thinking about like I said, this isn't an exhaustive list what we've got here. There's about 3 options. There could be other options as well. I don't know. Somebody might decide. Go on, sorry, please.
Well, what options would you consider?
Well, there might be, for instance, the idea that maybe she might be better in moving into sheltered accommodation or something like that.
Right.
I particularly like the idea of why there's a care home. Does anyone think being in a care home is a good idea?
Well, I would take exception and a great deal of issue with my mother being taken into a care home or sheltered accommodation, simply because it's a great deal of deprivation of liberty. It would mean I'm surprised to see the care home actually on the list there.
Yeah, where's it come from?
Where's that come from?
Do we know? Is that an option that anyone can pick also? The court has.
And it has been considered in the past.
Okay. It doesn't sound to me like there's anybody here who's saying that
No.
a care home would be in their best interest, though.
No. A care home was being considered at one point when we were finding it difficult to get him to carry out the assessment in your sister's address in Oldham, and the possibility of a flexi-bed at Woodward Court was being considered in order for us to complete that full social care assessment.
This was in December. Sorry, this was only in December, because obviously I would have objected to it, but this was only in December.
It was, but we did manage to get in soon after that to, complete the assessment that we needed to complete. So that option was then ruled out.
So the purpose of can you just explain for the benefit, what's a flexi bed?
It's
I think I know what I mean, a flexi bed is.
Woodward Court is a unit that carries out assessments over a 4-week period
Alright, yeah.
of people who we can't assess on a 24-hour basis in their own home. So they will do a 4-week assessment for us to determine where their long-term care needs will be best met.
So it was just purely for the purposes of assessment, so it's not living, so
No,
living isn't,
no.
so it wasn't living in
It was
the
an
care home.
assessment period.
And that's not
Yeah.
necessary now anyway.
No,
So it's,
Sorry.
no, but I mean, it's your
If
meeting, so.
Yeah, sorry, if it's all right with yourself, I would like to spend some time discussing this option, alright? And highlight what the negative aspects of them are, just for everybody's reference, so just we can rule it out as an option.
Okay.
The first thing is that this issue started, I have a long-standing grievance with the local authority, alright? But in particularly focused with regards to my mother was where her previous social worker, Mrs. Hussain, I can't remember what her name was, in September 2012, attempted to take my mother to Dove Court, which is a resource centre where to carry out further, basically to carry out further assessments. That initiated and resulted in a formal complaint being put in. I believe everybody's seen a copy of this. Is that correct?
I haven't.
Alright. So I would just like to highlight that what happened then in September was that because I approached the social services asking for support because I recognised my mother was beginning to, she's entitled to support, number one, and secondly that she was beginning to suffer the early stages of dementia as far as I could assess. So a social worker was allocated. It was a male social worker. Mr. Lee, would you be able to tell me what the name of the social worker is?
Was it Yassine? Yassine
no,
Ibrahim?
it's
Tahir, that's correct.
Tahir
That's right. Tahir Mahmood was the first social worker. Came over, carried out an assessment regarding my mother's needs. This was in August 2012. He then said he wanted to speak to my mother on her own regarding personal hygiene issues.
Hiya.
Hi, my name's Natalie.
Hi, Natalie, my name's Ian Burgess, I'm the capacity at Leeds. Sorry, we started without you.
No, of course, I think Alex passed my apologies, unfortunately.
Do you want to sit at the desk? Do you want to take your laptop out?
It's
Or...
okay, Alex is taking a note.
Oh, is you? You're right there.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay. Sorry, you were saying about Dove Court?
I'm just conscious that Ms. Coates has joined us. I just want to just quickly brief you in. We're presently talking about the option of my mother going to a care home and why I would rule it out. So that's where we're at, yes. Alright, so as I explained, Tahir Mahmood came out to carry out an assessment for my mother. That was the first assessment that's been carried out, that's instigated all these subsequent interactions with the local authority. Carried out an assessment, identified that there were some needs, but he wanted to speak to my mother on her own with regards to personal hygiene issues. I had concerns because it was a male worker. That male worker is now going to change to a female worker. Do you remember the name of the female worker? Khosa, that's correct, yes. So Khosa Hussain then came involved. I liaised with Khosa Hussain, and what was identified is that my mother probably was suffering from social isolation issues, and that she could be taken to maybe Carmen Community Centre. Alright, at the time, and I was all for this. I was encouraging my mother to get out because she had suffered a car accident injury, where I had approached Age UK to get her walking services. Those services were very limited due to resource deficit. It was only a short period of course. That finished, and I was quite keen for my mother to take on more support services. Carmen Community Centre was suggested, but my mother. Going simply into a community centre caused a great deal of issues.
Right, okay.
Just going to a community centre where there were other Asian women there. It was unfamiliar, but her primary role was that, you know, she felt aggrieved at Tyler being left on his own.
Yeah.
She was Tyler's... Okay. So Talib at that time was, you know, obviously he's a vulnerable person. My mother's been his primary carer. I've taken on that responsibility, but subsequently he's so she felt, you know, like she didn't want to leave him out on his own. Number one, and she was not happy with the bus service. I was going to collect her and other people. This all came ahead because she didn't want to go there. Then Khosa proactively took my mother to Dove Court. Alright, but Khosa was not there. Tahir Mahmood was there, and he tried to question my mother. My mother felt very threatened and took to escape from there. It was a very horrific incident. That evening, I had to take my mother to an emergency hospital because she was so anxious, and that's why I feel sometimes what professionals don't take into consideration is that I often am very defensive towards my mother, simply because that I know that she suffers from anxiety, and that was a clear example where things had not been cleared with myself, even though I was having an open and clear dialogue with the social workers. I felt something underhanded had happened.
And you're linking this now to nursing care with the same.
So that one incident where community care was provided, and obviously where she was going to a daycare centre, that was like a nursing home as well, a care home setting. She was not happy. She looked to escape from there. They had to bring her back. Eventually, when she came back, she was so agitated that I had to take her to hospital. I then formally lodged a complaint regarding that very incident, which is detailed and logged on the systems. Okay, so that was the first incident, and so given that context. And it's something, obviously, I, as a son of my mother, know the fact that it was not something that she doesn't find that appropriate to go into environments where she's not feeling fully comfortable without a family member, and also it's not culturally appropriate. And I think that's another dimension that I would like to bring into consideration, is that I think a lot of people, due to no fault of their own, don't fail to recognise the subtle cultural differences. You understand that when you go to certain cultures, certain actions, what we consider inconsequential, can be conceived as greatly offensive to the people. And I would like to give a clear point of example where my mother has felt that way. And there's two ladies here that incident happened on the 17th of July 2018. Both Miss Lyons and Miss Coates had visited my mother to carry out an introductory visit. What Miss Lyons was unaware of was that the way she was dressed, which was quite appropriate for her own setting, was considered very inappropriate for my mother.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So,
yeah, but I take on board there are cultural considerations. The main thing we're looking at though is and it's very helpful. You're saying that a nursing home for all kinds of reasons. I do need to come back to the cultural thing.
Yeah.
But the idea of a care home is something that you find objectionable. Our colleagues in social work are of the same opinion. So it just struck me a little bit odd why we're even considering it.
But something that I wanted to bring forward, if you remember, I said it's something that I wanted to completely rule out. Okay, and simply because, cultural issues and also religious issues. We come from just the last point before we just finish up. We come from a very conservative religious family. You can tell by the way my attire, and also my family as well. We're conservative, religiously quite conservative. You see, so that culturally, religiously, and obviously emotionally would be such an inappropriate environment to be anywhere other than the family environment.
And speaking of that, then, because I was thinking about her cultural needs or religious needs in particular when she's in Oldham. Does she have access to? Forgive me, I'm not all afraid with Islam, but do people from the mosque come to her, or vice versa, or does she get this? Is anything she doesn't get in Oldham that she would get in Bradford, or vice versa?
Well, I mean, with regards to her cultural and religious needs, obviously we carry out weekly prayers, prayers, but there's nothing that she's receiving culturally or religiously that she's receiving in Oldham that she couldn't receive in Bradford.
Right.
Okay,
there's no connection with a particular mosque or anything?
No, we don't have no other, but we have religious practices. And obviously the halal food, that would be another issue, which I've obviously experienced, where, when you're going into catered home or nursing home, there have been issues where halal services have been provided, but things go wrong as inevitably they do. So, for those reasons, I would, and you can see those are legitimate reasons, and if nobody else is objecting to this, that we're ruling out anything like social care or, nursing home or a care home or even a community centre, I don't think would be appropriate for my mother.
Okay. Was Talib saying something before, or was it?
No, I think it's just Talib just overwhelmed with the number of people here. He's just very, he's a bit uncomfortable with this. Yeah. Funny pizza? No. Talib will tell me he's quite vocal, but obviously I would ask you not to engage with him because he doesn't want anybody to engage with him.
Oh, okay. If it does get too drafty, we'll.
Just a few different things. Yeah?
He said he wants half an hour. Does he not trust the water?
Yeah?
Are we okay?
Yep.
So Natalie, we were just having a bit of a chat before about looking at some of these options. I was a bit puzzled as to, sorry, forgive me, you don't ever agree around the table, do you?
I have been trying to spot names. If you wouldn't mind, I apologise for the my lateness. There wasn't Is it alright to do a quick round of introductions just like
Yeah, forgive me, I was really.
No, it's my fault for being late.
Okay, I'm Ian Burgess, I'm the MP at Bradford Council, I'm obviously the chair.
I'm Sue Ledger, I work for Bradford Council, I'm taking minutes today.
Sorry, I know how.
You know what?
Imagine between service time.
Shazzy be the interpreter.
Shazzy.
Oh, nice to meet you. Hiya. Hi, Megan Bond. Hiya. Hi,
True
Just wondering, apologies, is it in today again, passed on apologies, or is she planning to join us today, or?
She's not, is she? We've got a transcript from her.
Who?
Your sister.
You got a transcript from there?
Zahida. Have we talked about Zahida?
But
The YouTube video?
Link that you sent.
Oh, okay, alright. Like I said, explain, we've got relatives over today, so she's not going to be coming down today.
Oh, right, okay.
Okay.
Apologies, okay, thank you.
So we were, I think it looks like you've more or less ruled out the idea of a nursing home. I just wondered if there's anything from, as Mrs. Dagan's advocate, was there anything that you feel that any benefit of being in a care home, or anything bad about it or good about it?
Just to clarify, our role and purposes today is that we're instructed by the official solicitor on behalf of Mrs. Dagan. So we need to gather information to feed back to the official solicitor and take instructions. Obviously we've been at court recently on this matter, and it was the local authority's proposal that this meeting would happen, so we're really keen to listen and to learn.
Okay, so my understanding from the Oldham, forgive me, was that the purpose of the meeting is so that the local authority can prepare a decision. So just by taking on board everybody's views, because there was, as Pip was saying before, there was an idea for 24-hour care or a temporary care.
An assessment period.
An assessment, forgive me, and not anymore. So, but I mean, I'm inviting you to come. If you don't wish to come, that's.
No, we have nothing to
Okay,
add at
so,
this stage. Yeah, we're just here to listen and to learn, and then our position further to listen.
Okay, anything from yourself, or is there anything that?
Really, that it's more, I suppose, it wants the best interest as to where we're living will then become a financial. So I have been joined as a party to this, but it's not really for me to majorly comment.
So, okay.
So a bit like, we're here, but
Okay.
From a financial point of view, because I've now been joined, but ordinarily it's not something that.
No, indeed. So we're all sat around, there's an awful lot of people sat around the table, but really, we're listening to
Supposed to, yeah.
yourselves, and particularly yourself.
Okay, alright, so obviously Pip Nary's got a position presently, so the only two real options are or staying at Oldham or staying at Bradford. I just wanted to, we're in agreement that option 3 is not really a viable option. I just wanted to explore some of the other options.
I don't know, Ian, I have views from Adalet and Alga Fee.
Okay, alright.
I don't know where you want me to pick those up.
We can do them now.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah? Okay.
You have anything from Shida?
No, I've not. All siblings were wrote to and invited today.
Alright.
They were asked if they couldn't attend today, could they put their views in writing
Fine.
before today. And we've had no contact from Shahida. We've had a little bit of a written statement from Adala and one from Calda, who's your oldest sister.
That's correct, yeah.
What was the third name, sorry?
Khalida. Yeah.
Before you read those statements out, just wanted to, I think it just fits in appropriately, because one of the other options initially considered by the council was the option of Shahid moving my mother to Shahida's house. That was originally one of the options that emergency orders were put in place. So that was in April 2019, where the idea was to move my mother to Shahida's house. Shahida had wrote to the court herself saying that she was quite happy to accommodate my mother and that she was looking forward to taking care of her. So
Where's Shahida's house?
Shahida's in Bradford.
Yeah. How do I spell Shahida? Forgive me, how do I spell that? Is that Shahida? Is it on there? Is that?
S-H-A-H-I-D-A.
I need glasses, what was it? Let's see the glasses.
S-H.
A-H-I-D-A. Right, okay.
Yeah.
Are you alright on that one?
So I was quite surprised to see that's no longer an option.
Yeah,
So
well.
could it, because that was initially what the plan was, to move my mother to Shida's house. And then Shida had written to the court saying that she was quite happy to accommodate her.
Right, okay.
That was in April. She was made party to the proceedings. She was not had any further input, and I just wanted to rule that out as an option.
After visiting her property, I think, Trudy, you were more heavily involved
Yeah,
in
I
that.
mean, I think that the reason for the emergency request was because that was at a point where we were concerned. We haven't seen FB for some time, and I think it was at a point where you'd sent the picture of her at the bottom of the stairs, and and you'd said that she'd died.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think there was a real concern for her safety at that
Well,
point.
can I just, sorry, go on.
No, go on.
I just wanted to touch on that point, because obviously what I would have understood was that there would have been no concerns, because if you had received such an email, alright, was it not your first option to ring up Oldham Hospital? Was that correct?
We did.
So you did
We
ring up?
came down with the police.
Alright, no, before you came down with the police, did you ring up Oldham Hospital to determine, or the GP to determine whether that was true or not?
Okay, I'm hoping,
Okay, alright.
keeping it in terms of Mrs. Thing's best
Yeah.
interest.
Let's just focus in on
Yeah.
a property at, my sister Shida's house.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if I explain
Yeah, alright.
why we decided that, and then we changed and then we decided that that wasn't right. So we were looking at that point. We were looking for something that we potentially needed immediately. We didn't want to consider a care home. We wanted to keep her within the family. Shahida was the person who said yes. I could take my mum. I could look after her. I'm happy to have her. So that was our position at that point. But when we did get in and we saw Mrs. Dagan, and then things changed. I mean, we worked with you, and we worked. So things changed. So it's
So just to highlight, I mean, obviously today Ms. B has had an opportunity, my sister Shida's had an opportunity to take on that responsibility. She's had an opportunity to engage with the court process in order to say, like, I would like my mother to come here. She's obviously had an opportunity to be written out to. She could have put her views forward. So I'm just looking to cross options out, alright? And that was can we conclude that that is not like an option?
Well, she hasn't put her views forward, so we can't consider what her
But
view
I mean,
was.
but
Okay, so she's not put a view forward.
No, she hasn't.
She's not here to say.
She hasn't
So we're
responded.
consulting with her.
No.
Okay, so from your perspective, is there any merit in that?
Yes, does it have any merit?
That has no merit.
Okay, so we can.
Yes, okay.
Okay.
Although,
Okay.
if you want me to read out Calder's views,
By all means, how many have you got?
Two.
Did you say?
I've
Two.
got Adala Hussain,
Adala.
yeah, and Calder B.
Okay. Well, can I just deal with Adala's situation first, and then we'll come back to Calder's, okay?
Yeah.
Because I've got something to would like to input
Well,
on her.
would you mind? I mean, are they written out, both of them? Are they typed up?
One's typed up, one's handwritten.
Okay.
Can I have copies of that?
Yeah, please.
Save me writing it
Yeah,
down.
Indeed.
of course you can, yeah.
But feel free, I mean, go just if
So,
we're okay with this.
Shazia and I visited Adala on 15th of January, and I took a written account of what he said.
Okay.
And this is it condensed. He didn't want to go with my written account, so he wrote his own.
Oh, fair enough.
And this is his account. Following on from meeting the social workers Pip Mary and Shazia Bashir on 15th of January, meeting my mum Fateh Begum, they implied that they were happy with my mum being looked after at 14 Morris Street, Oldham, and that she was well cared for and are not looking to move her from there.
Okay.
He says, if that is the case and my mum is happy there, I have no objection to that.
Right.
As I have looked after my mum in the past and have not seen her since August 2018, I am still wanting to see my mum, but strongly object to seeing her at Morris Street or in fact anywhere in Oldham.
So
Whilst he's saying that he's happy if his mum's happy, he has no objection to her being in Oldham with his sister. he wants to see her, but he doesn't want to see her there.
Okay, but that's in his best interest, isn't it? So
Yeah.
we're focusing on Mrs. Begum.
Yes.
Okay.
So that was Mr. Hussain.
Okay, and just add in there, I mean, you've seen the property, and it wouldn't be appropriate for him to take on the responsibility.
Not in that particular property, Mr.
Yeah,
Hussain. He
yeah.
was willing, he said at one point, to pay for major adaptations to that property, but I couldn't see how he could adapt it for someone.
Yeah, and I would question his financial resources to
Which
do so.
property are
Well,
you talking about now?
His property,
8
Mr.
Granton Street,
Adalet's property in
Bradford.
Bradford.
Right. And does Mrs. Begum express a desire to see Adala, or she?
She hasn't said.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Alright, thank you, and then,
So we have a view from Calderby, who is
Yes,
your
and my
eldest
eldest
sister.
sister, yes.
how do you spell Calder? Sorry.
Khalida.
K-H-L-I.
Khalida.
Yeah, right,
And
okay.
it's B, a surname.
Thank you.
So she stated that we visited her on the 30th of January. Yes, at her home address. She couldn't be here today, she's in Saudi Arabia,
Oh,
but she was happy to give us this statement and sign it.
okay.
She last visited her mother approximately 6 weeks ago, that was back on the 30th of January when
Okay.
she gave us this statement. She was happy that her sister Zahida is doing a good job looking after her mum. She's cooking her all fresh meals, dealing with her personal hygiene very well, she's no concerns about that. Although her sister had recently said that she was tired and needs a rest. She did feel that her sister's mental health has improved since her mum moved in Oldham.
Right, okay.
When asked where she thinks her mum should live long term, she said either with Zahida in Oldham or Shahida in Bradford. If she did come to Shahida, she said that granddaughter Shagufta can assist, and I believe that's Nazam's daughter.
That's correct, yeah.
That's your
Yeah,
late
yeah.
brother's daughter.
Yeah, that's right,
And she felt that if her mum goes back to primary way in Bradford, which is her address, that she definitely need carers. Herself, she can offer no physical support due to her own health problems, and obviously she could visit her mum more regularly if she's in Bradford, but will still visit her if she remains in Oldham, and that she's happy to give her all the emotional support that she needs.
Okay.
And those were her views.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hussain, there was something you were going to say
Yeah,
before.
first of all, I mean, with regards to those views, I think we had visited court on the 20th,
Yes.
and I did mention to you that I had gone to speak to my sister the day before on Sunday, so I had visited my sister Halda on the 19th of January. Alright, and we had a meeting, and it was quite a cordial meeting, and I explained to her, you know, the situation. Subsequently, you say you've visited her on the 30th?
Yes.
Okay, and then subsequently, I visited her on the 7th. No, I visited her on the 6th of February. She's come and visited my mum on the 7th of February to because she was going to Mecca, Saudi Arabia.
On the 8th.
Yeah, she went on the 8th. Okay, so obviously that was your simply context. But though I'm just wanting to look at the merits of what the statement is, because obviously I'm just hearing this for the first time, much like yourself. Calderby is expressing an opinion. She's not willing to put herself forward, and she's basically relying on other people, i.e. my other siblings, Shida or Zaida, to look after her. She's not actually saying the fact that this is what I'm willing to do, what support I'm
She doesn't
willing
need to, she's
Yeah.
just giving her opinion,
Yeah,
she's
opinion,
allowed to do that.
that's
That's fine.
fair enough, but I'm saying, what merit does it have? Just like, as an option. I'm quite surprised, considering, as you can understand, the family has a great deal of mental health problems. That is undisputed. Right, 2 brothers suffering from schizophrenia, Talib included. We've got my sister suffering from different degrees of depression. So it's a very dysfunctional family. We've got a lot of personal history regarding conflicts and stuff.
Okay.
It's outside the scope of this, but bottom line is obviously we're looking at what's in my mother's best interest.
That's evident, yeah.
Yeah, that's what we're looking at, what's in my mother's best interest.
Yeah.
She's quite rightly had to have an opinion or a view. Her opinions and her views are that either that my mother sister remains with Zaida, or that she was happy to see her in Bradford with Shiders. Right, now just to finish up, you mentioned my niece Shagufta. Okay. Now Shagufta, obviously you wouldn't know this, but Shagufta lives quite literally 4 or 5 minutes walking distance from Primary Way, my mother's home address. I've recently engaged Shagufta. I can say the fact that I asked her to come to this meeting today with her input. She said she couldn't because of her own commitments, and she's quite happy to engage with social workers on the telephone. She's come over. One of the things that we're struggling with is giving her a bath. I myself transported my niece Shagufta yesterday, the day before, I think on Sunday, we're Tuesday today, so on Sunday, so a couple of days ago, she's come over, she's assisted my mum with a bath, because my sister's struggling to give her a bath on the road. So obviously, there's further merits in the fact that even Halda's saying that Shagufta is willing to provide some practical support, and that practical support being able to give my mother a bath. I take exception and disagree with my sister's views and interpretations that it would only be necessary for there to be outside agency care provided.
I wondered that. Yeah, but it's her view.
Yeah, it's her view, and I would take exception.
I wondered that as well. So, but both Khalida, was that right? Khalida and Adela they're both saying that it would be best for Mrs. Bagan to live in Oldham, right, where we are, not move.
But no, I'm sorry.
Adela was saying that they'd be happy with that.
Yeah.
That's their view.
Yeah.
But obviously, from Adala's own statement, he said he's not going to visit his mother. He's not visited his mother since August, and obviously, if that matter continues. Because obviously I can tell you why he's not going to visit, because obviously Halda, as Adalat and Zaida have obviously they're not getting along, so obviously they've had she holds him responsible for the breakdown of her marriage and so on and so forth. So like I said, there's sibling conflict. It's not a case where everybody has an issue with me. They all have issues with each other.
Yeah, it's family dynamics.
Yeah,
It's very complicated. And it's very frustrating as well sometimes at the evening, and I've chaired these meetings before where sometimes I've had family members saying, I'm not going to come into that meeting, that person shouldn't be there. And I'm saying, look, if everyone's got an interest in giving a view, then that's it, that's what we want to hear. Because it just helps, it's not to say there's any particular weight to it, it's just to help the decision maker make the decision.
Yeah, just making more information, yes.
Absolutely. So primary way then, so we've talked an awful lot about Oldham, and we've looked at the care home option and that. Sorry,
Mr. Burgess, before you just move on, just back up Oldham at Zaida's house. So everybody's happy with Zaida living, my mum being cared for, picked an area, everybody else is happy with her staying there. It'll be noted that Zaida's not here today. Number one, and also it'll be noted that irrespective of whether you choose to accept it or not, as it stands today, I act on her behalf for holding a lasting power of attorney, which is registered with the Office of the Public Guardian, as it stands today.
For personal welfare or for
both?
For
Property finances and health and welfare.
And for who's this for, sorry?
No, for my sister Zaida.
Oh, right, okay.
And I've acted in her, she basically authorises me to act on her behalf and express her views and opinions, because she doesn't speak English, she has her own health issues.
Okay.
So we just wanted to finish off before we move on to a primary way to Zaida, what I believe.
Yeah, and I have the transcript as well, I'd like to read that out.
Okay, you can do it.
Okay.
Sorry, what's on your mind?
Oh, it's just a technicality about but it's nothing to do with this meeting though, so I might mention it to you later on. It's just about powers of attorney and the person being incapacitated and the personal welfare one, but I'll talk separately about that.
I mean, it's just basically the welfare doesn't come into place until the lacks capacity, yes?
Okay,
but the property and finances do come into place straight away, and my sister has ticked that box, saying the fact that,
I was just running that past you. Yeah, great. But like I said, it was nothing to do with this meeting. So primary way, can we because we've not really talked about Bradford and the idea of
Can I just, because I've read out other people's opinions, can I read out Zaida's?
Oh, forgive me, I didn't know this existed, sorry.
That's the YouTube video.
Yes,
Sorry.
Mr. Sain sent
Can you
it.
let me have that afterwards as well?
Yes, of
I
course.
thought it was just a six,
There
sorry.
was a YouTube video in which Zahida was asked questions by yourself and filmed, and we've had that translated into English.
Okay.
To read out today. That recording was taken on the 17th of January. Mr. Sain, you explained to your sister on that video that it's going to be a witness statement that's going to be read out today at this meeting. She agrees that that's okay. So you ask her, what would you like to say to the meeting? And she said, my door is broken and they should give me a new one.
Door, did you say?
Yes. You then say, Mr. saying, what should they do? She says they should replace the door. You said, what happened to the door? She says they broke it. You said, okay, when did they break it? She said, when they came knocking on the door at night. You said, okay, that's fine, what else? She says, for my mother, they should make a bath shower. They should give you money, support you, so you can make it. You say to her, okay, why do you need a bath or shower? She says, for my mother. You said, Mr. Saint, how do you bath mother now? She says, if they make a bath, toilet, shower, it will be easier. I'm using a cloth now. You said, Mr. Saint, okay, that's okay. Are you happy to look after her? She said, I am happy to look after her. You said, what difficulties do you have? She said, the difficulties you support me with are you go out shopping because you have a car and you take the clothes for the wash. You said, okay. She said, you take my mother out sometimes. You said, okay. She said, you go out shopping, I don't have a car, which is a problem. They should make me a bath and a shower, and they broke my door and should replace it. You said to her in English, that's enough statement from Zahida Begum. You said to her, what date is it today? She says, the date today is the 10th. You said, no, it's the 17th and it's Friday. She said, it's Friday the 17th. And that's it.
The door?
Yes.
Or just to clarify, what had happened last year was that these court proceedings began I basically got my mother's lasting power of attorney in February, 24th of February 2018, at which time we were receiving support from BEST, from the council, since my mother's discharge in November 2017, because she went into hospital following a stroke. So my understanding was that BEST services were supposed to come in for 6 to 8 weeks maximum. There was a lot of issues because BEST were not leaving, and so therefore, and there was issues regarding money. At this stage, I was my mother's DWP appointee. My mother signed over a lasting power of attorney to me, which became an issue of contention. There was a social workers meeting, I believe, on the 16th of March 2018, where I perceived that Annie Bateson and Sarah Hussain had come down to carry out a mental capacity assessment, which I took an exception to. So therefore, that started a whole series of processes, which I believe, in my opinion, your services, your particular service as Ian Burgess, as the lead of the mental capacity lead, I was asked to engage with yourself. That all fell away, and then subsequently what happened was that court proceedings started in December without my awareness to depose me as holding power of attorney and given to Ms. Mullins. So in February, what was happening was that there were court proceedings underway regarding the deposement of my LPA, basically. Okay. At this stage, I was in collaboration. I was speaking to both Annie Bateson and Ramsden solicitors, where they had come down to visit my mother. So at the start of February last year, I think it was the 8th of February, where Miss Lang had come down with Miss Beans, Miss, being confused with their names now. But anyway, somebody had come down. Okay. I originally had a meeting with Najim Salim, whom I have a long history with. Okay, and Najim Salim's here today, and he can confirm that I've known Najim Salim since at least January 2003. So that's a very long period of time. So I was surprised that Najim Salim had further involvement. So she wanted to see my mother.
Okay, I'm going to come back. The question I'm asking is...
It's the door. I'm getting to the door.
Right,
Sorry, I'm waffling, but I'm getting to the door. I'm building up to the door.
All right.
So I had arranged a meeting with Najim Salim. It had to be on the 27th of February, all right, 2019.
Okay.
All right. I had to cancel that meeting. And as a result of me cancelling that meeting, Najim Salim came down with the police and attempted to gain access to the property in primary way. I said, because there's no warrant of entry, I'm not going to allow you entry. Okay. All right. Just to finish.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah. So what happened is that Najim Salim with the police came down and tried to gain entry to 20 Primary where I refused. I recorded the whole incident, hence Mr. Salim mentioning recordings. She then contacted Miss Mullins, I believe, to ensure that they had money to replace the lock. Alright?
Okay.
So they actually gained entry and determined that my mother was not there.
Okay.
They then subsequently proceeded to go back to the police and say, well, we think that his mother's been kidnapped, and so they came to Oldham, alright, with the police and busted my sister's door in whilst arresting me in Bradford.
Okay.
So I was arrested, alright, and Najim Salim with the police or whoever with the solicitors came down and broke my sister's door, alright. And that remains the case. So she's aggrieved that, you know.
That's why she mentioned the door.
So she's to this day she's, you know, obviously very aggrieved
Right.
about the door.
Thank you for explaining that.
Yeah.
I would never have known. The other thing though, she's mentioning thanks. Is she able to, is Mrs. Begum able to have a bath properly, or is she able to be kept clean? Is there anything missing?
She's definitely able to be kept clean. I presume the bath is upstairs in your sister's property. I've never been upstairs.
I can confirm that I would not accept permit my mother to go upstairs.
And I would imagine that your mum would not be able
Yeah,
to
she would not go to the bath
But
upstairs.
didn't your niece go and give her a bath?
Well, with regard to the bathing situation, I have now recently, alright, within the last week or so, bought a bath. Alright, it's a blow bath. I've had to spend £125, alright,
Wow.
for a blow bath. So, because my sister was really struggling, so when my niece has come and given her a bath recently, I said, so we bought a bath, alright. You know, I can't believe we spent £125 for a blow bath.
Swimming pool. I'm having a pool.
Yeah, basically.
So is there, I mean, I don't know, I don't know. Shazzy?
Yeah, I just want to put, what we found out in the assessment was that, so I think what's happening is FB was before sitting on the commode, and then there was a bucket placed underneath, and then that's how she was having her bath. Now I don't know obviously if you're entirely aware of this,
I am
but this
aware.
is what KB also mentioned, and Becky had mentioned that in the past, but that's how she was having a bath in the past.
Doesn't sound terribly dignified, does it?
And that is still the case now as well.
So is it?
Sorry, just to touch upon that, the way that my mother gets a bath, initially my mother was going to the living room because obviously we've got laminate floors. There was no where she sleeps is her bedroom basically, where she sleeps is carpeted, so we can't give her a bath. So she was moving to the living room floor where there's a laminate floor. It's laminated. She sits on the commode, and my sister proceeds to put water on her and give her a bath up there.
So is there, I mean, I don't know, because what's been considered, I mean, is there an option for a grant or to get a bath put in or to do anything like a wet room? I mean, she's asking, that's what she's asking. Has that been considered?
We have made a referral
Yes.
to the OT, but
Okay.
the OT are saying they will only consider adaptations once if we know where she's going to, FB's going
Well, that's fair enough.
reside
Yeah,
permanently.
permanently.
They will look at equipment, not adaptation.
Just adding about, obviously I take that is a crucial point that I believe that's not really been highlighted. And I'm glad that you brought this up, because obviously that is a major issue that I think has been kind of like skimmed over through the assessment process, is that presently I can tell you, and I'm sure you all agree, that having a bath dramatically improves the quality of my mother. And I've noticed this because my mother previously, what's been happening is that while my mother's been in Oldham, I've been taking her from Oldham, me and my sister, bringing her to Bradford, giving her a bath and taking her back. Alright? So that's what's been, and I noticed a remarkable difference in her getting out of the car, having a shower, and then running back to the car after she's had a shower. But that all was put a stop to because of a court order stating that we couldn't move our mother, alright, from that property. So therefore I felt very reluctant to move her from the property, and as a result of her not being able to move from the property, my sister has then had to give her a bath in this regard.
Right.
Now, moving forward, I have now had to bought this bath, but the bath, she's still receiving her, it's made it a little better, but she's still on the commode receiving the water. Water's not going everywhere now.
Is there space in the home in Oldham though for this to be given effect? Is there a space for a wet room or?
Well, just moving on to this, I mean, obviously I'm very proactive in this. I take my parole and position very seriously, so I've had an architect come down because there is a possibility that there can be an extension to her kitchen. So we've had the architect come down to give an assessment of having the kitchen extended. So there is a possibility to have a wet room, but it has to be a major adaptation to the property. Alright?
I mean, we've looked at, you know, the need is for her to be clean.
Yeah.
She's always been clean.
Yeah.
Her clothing's always clean, her hair's always clean. She's obviously, although it's not ideal, and we all like to have a bath or a shower, there are things that she does need to be clean, and she is clean. And having this arrangement in the kitchen, in the living room, I mean, that does actually ensure that she is clean. It doesn't, and I'm sure that a daughter does that with dignity and ensures that that's
With all due respect, and this, you have to understand this, when we see things from the outside, it seems quite nice and easy. You don't know the amount of effort and hard work and stress and anxiety and the difficulty that goes into it. Yes, I mean, everybody's in agreement here that my mother's been cared well for, but and you can see the results. You know, when we see the end results, it's quite. You know, we see, oh, that's kind of, you kind of take away from the fact that all the effort and hard work that goes in. I do this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. My sister's trained, and it's all about sustainability.
Yes,
that's what concerns me.
And that is our concern.
Yeah. What concerns me is the sustainability. Now, if it's taking 100% effort to give my mother a bath in Oldham, and she has a wet room, it would reduce my sister's effort to maybe 50% or 40% or 30%, and that's why I believe it's we're not going to allow our mother at the end of the day to be degraded, not kept clean, but we're struggling, and that's the whole purpose of the adaptation. So before we move to Bradford's property, I mean, if let's just say for argument's sake that we make the decision is made that my mother does stay in Oldham, well, it would be necessary, and I said I've made it quite clear that she does need to have a wet room downstairs. And the costs for those and I've made Miss Mullins aware of them, because she does have a substantial amount of costs. We don't go into the details of how those costs accumulated, but those costs ideally should be placed in my mother's best interest to adapt the property, rather than putting those onto a council waiting list, and that could be for a very long time, and at the expense of the public purse. And I've taken issue with this simply because that in my previous experience with Bradford Council's OT assessments is that they came to assess my mother. What concerns me at the time, 2014 or 2013, 2014, was that there was a potential that my mum could fall down the stairs where she's living at 20 Primary Way. Alright, and she didn't have access to all the floors. I asked them to put a stair lift in place, and it was just basically the saying that she doesn't need it. I then had to fund it myself and put a stair lift in on all 3 floors. It's cost me £5,000. But the thing is that it's been a quick turnaround time. What concerns me is that, considering my mum's age and everything else, I would be very, very reluctant to approach the local authority in Oldham to adapt a property, especially when my mother has the funds to have the property adapted. So just fully looking at the property in Oldham, if a decision has been made to for my mother to stay there, or, obviously against my wishes, but if she's going to stay there, then it's imperative that that project start as soon as possible. Taking into consideration my mother's now 86 years old, alright, and we want the benefits of the wet room, rather than for it to be made for her to use only once, and then obviously the wet room is a very important. So that with regards to the option of staying in Oldham, if that is an option that you're going to pursue, then I would insist that if that's going to be the case, that it would be funded through her own funds, which Miss Mullins is here to put in a wet room as soon as possible. Because ultimately, what you're failing to understand is those that you're focusing on my mother's needs, which you're satisfied are being met, it's a cost to my sister. Alright, personal, emotional.
I totally get it. I understand it. For your sister to continue to do it, she needs to be supported, and it's not just about the needs anymore; it's about happiness as well that we're looking at.
Can I just raise something based on what you've just said? With regards to your sister, which she's not in, we've got that from the YouTube. Would she be willing to participate in the carers assessment and how we could support her?
No, she wouldn't know. For the first point, I'll tell you why. I would advise her against it. Alright, and the reason I'll explain why. The carers assessment, I've obviously been a carer for a very long time, alright? I know exactly what the carers assessment's about. It's been offered to me on numerous occasions. And what they've told me, the carers assessment is there's no obligation. You're legally obligated to provide a carers assessment. Once that carers assessment has been carried out, there's no legal obligation for you to do anything.
No,
that's correct, isn't it?
Yeah, from the carer understanding of the carer, yeah.
That's correct,
Sorry, Ian, just going back to the issue of the bath.
Yeah.
Another option, I mean, you don't have to agree with me, is we could look at a day centre, for example in Oldham, who has facilities of baths and showers where she could be transported.
Okay.
Or
You've
we
already-
do have it for other services.
You do have the shower facilities here as well.
But
There is that, there
Okay,
is an
okay.
option there.
Okay, we've got several strands going on here. I want to get
Sorry, I'm just going back
I'm just
to
going to pick up the issue with the Carers Act. You're saying that you would advise your sister not to have a Carers Act, but you can still ask her. So,
Yeah.
so that's your advice. Secondly, can I just say, has this been costed? This idea of this wet room has all this been costed?
Well, the thing is that I obviously approached an architect because before I could get a builder's quote, I needed to get an architect. Alright, so I've approached an architect, I believe, in August last year. Alright, I forwarded those plans to the courts, to the social workers, to Miss Mullins, okay, for approval. I've not heard anything back.
Would Oldham Council, not planning department, need to see to approve the plan?
Yes, they would, but
Have
the
they
first,
approved them?
but just hold on one second, Mr. Lim, I think, your contribution is not progressive.
I do believe that's what you would have to do.
I'm fully aware of the procedures, okay, but the
Planning
first thing is to fund it, alright?
Okay.
I suppose we haven't progressed anything with that because there hasn't been
Okay.
it'd have to be, the decision would have to be made that was going to be her permanent
Yes,
residence
yes.
to spend that money, because it would have to be in the best
That's-
interest,
that's
wouldn't it?
right,
So
yes.
that's why that hasn't been
Okay,
progressed.
I'm going to come back to the
Well,
financial deficit.
exactly
Yeah.
the point is, we can't make any decision until the residence has been decided, like the FT, we can't make any decision about that.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, well, that's fair enough, but you have made other decisions, while my mother's remained there on an interim basis regarding removing the.
This, on this particular
Yes.
point,
Okay.
it would be a very big expense.
It would be,
We've got
yes.
all the planning, as you quite rightly say, before we even lay a brick.
Yeah.
And so even the initial part of getting the architects
Yeah.
on board, and we would then not just be able to rely on one architect, I feel we would need to have a range. At this stage, we can't possibly commit to anything like that.
No.
And as we said, there are other avenues that may prove more in
Okay,
best interest.
Okay, that's fair enough.
I'm going to quickly come to that, but I've still got other
Yeah.
things to pick up on that, sorry.
Yeah, sure, thank you. Just trying to clarify the local authority's position, so in regards to the option of remaining in Oldham, it's suggested that that option that's on the table is one where Mrs Bacon doesn't have any access to a toilet, showering or bathing facilities. Is that the option that's on the table?
Well, at the moment, that's the position.
Yeah.
That is the
option? Is
situation.
Is that what the option is? Just because there's been no OT assessment, you said that in your view, the property isn't suitable to be adapted.
No.
There's no funding, there's no planning, and we don't even know if the owners of the
No,
property
I
are in
didn't
agreement.
say there was, I didn't say that actually, no. I said that there's not space currently, is there, on the ground floor for you to have a shower room and a toilet, but it would need an extension.
It would need
So
an
it's
So
not
it's-
capable of
it's-
adaptation, it's an extension.
Yeah,
So
it's
no
a
alternative then?
considerable expense. So that would be something that if the decision was
Yeah.
that she stayed there, that obviously that'd be something that we would have to look at, and it'd be whether it comes from her own funds or whether, whichever is in the best interest to do it, whether it's through Oldham Council
Yeah.
or,
So is there a guarantee on the table from the local authority that she will have access to a toilet and bathing
no, there's
facilities?
no guarantee,
So the
because we
option on the
haven't made
table-
No, no
any
guarantee
decision.
now.
So
No.
the option on the table is that there's no access to any toileting or bathing facilities.
Yes.
Which
It's
has got
not-
to come on, so.
But there's no toilet, can't access a toilet or any kind of
Bathing
toilet.
At this moment in
Yeah.
time,
No.
there's no.
Her current situation, that's her current
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah.
However,
Option on the
if that's,
table.
and that is something that many people,
Mm.
it's not an unusual situation, is
Really?
it?
Yeah, so
Really?
it's social work.
Yeah.
This is really common.
That is
Can I-
really not unusual,
Yeah,
no,
can I
I'm
just-
surprised that you think it is.
Can I
I'm
just-
surprised that it is.
Can I, what's with the old CSS, what's with the occupational therapy assessment then?
So she's
You
on
mentioned it, so.
adaptation, so for equipment at the moment, so if she needs any additional equipment, for example, a profiling bed. But they said they won't adapt the property until they know if she's going to be permanently
They won't even
resident.
consider,
Yeah, they
they
won't
won't even consider.
But there's a bathroom upstairs
Yes.
with a stair lift, would she be able to get upstairs?
There's no stair lift.
But if there was a stair lift, would that be
No,
less than building an extension, I mean?
No, I still would struggle with that as an option, putting the stair lift in because simply the way that the property is laid out, alright, even putting a stair lift on the stairs is problematic. Because obviously I've had to go through the process of putting a stair lift in my other property, number one. Number two is that the actual bath itself, I would struggle with it because what's happened in the past, and this has happened, is that the bath is about this high to get in.
The bath upstairs, yeah.
That could be changed as well.
Yeah, I understand that, so she's previously fallen, and once again, we're solely reliant on my sister Zaida giving her a bath. There's not a room maneuver for two people. Alright, so that would be solely on my sister's behalf of getting her all the way up to the bathroom upstairs, alright, with the risk that involves and the cost involving the stair lift. Once she's there, putting her into the bath, so that would mean a change of the bath, and then once she's actually in the bath, there would only be room for one place. It's a very cramped space. It's quite literally. I mean, it's very small. It's got a toilet and a bath and a sink, and that's
So even if there was, in your view, even if there was a stair lift, that wouldn't be in our best interest.
It wouldn't be in the best
necessarily. Okay. Was there something else after this?
Sorry, I'm just wondering why the UT assessment can't be done. I appreciate that the work can't actually be carried out until a final determination is made, but how can we even consider this as an option until we know that she has access to basic, even essential?
She does have access. She currently does have access to basic human rights. Yeah, and that's really
cleaned even though it's 2 o'clock.
And it's been done by my sister. But I agree with you, Ms. Coates. I think it's very undignified. I think everybody should have a right to have a, because having a clock being, imagine this, my mother, the reality is that she's not having a wet bath. She's not having a shower.
But we can look at creative other options until the decision is made. You can look at bathing facilities. You've got your leisure centre in Oldham that's not far from where
how is my mum supposed to get there?
Would you be able to drive down in your car and take your mother as you do? You do help your sister with the shopping as she stated in the YouTube video.
I understand
you
that.
would be able to support.
But these are once again costs that are not financial costs, but costs, emotional, time, resource costs that both me and my sister are having to do. Alright, which can be minimized if financial costs were being utilized to put an adaptation to the property.
I think the thing is that none of us want this to go on any longer than it needs to, because it is, and it is a stress and a strain on yourself and on your sister, and probably on your mum as well, actually. So it's not ideal for it to continue.
No.
That's why we want to make the best interest, so that then we can move forward and say, right, let's wherever she is, let's get the right equipment in, let's make sure that things are as good as they possibly can be for her. At the moment, we're in a little bit of limbo.
It's not something due to myself, is it though? I mean, that's something to do with myself, is it? I'm trying to rush this forward. So I think we've discussed everything about 45, I mean...
a quick glance at the time, it's 20 past 4 now. We haven't talked about primary awareness, so obviously I just wonder what the pros are, because there's an awful lot of stuff going on with the current, and it doesn't sound like it's what I want to try, it's just... It is complicated, we understand it's I can see it's complicated. So primary way then, if she was living back in Bradford, she would be able to access
a shower room, a wet room.
Right.
Before we look at the advantages of primary way, I would like to discuss what the disadvantages. You can start that, Can you tell me what the disadvantages are? Anybody weigh in?
Well, the disadvantage immediately would be that she's not with her daughter, who's providing her with the personal cares, her meals, and looking after her on a 24/7 basis. So she, Zahida really is playing a big role in looking after her.
So that's one disadvantage, that she would not have one-to-one care from her daughter.
Yeah. And then also she's in Oldham, she's seeing yourself, she's seeing Tally.
But she would see us.
She can see Khalida and.
We're looking at the disadvantages of going back to 20 primary way. So you said one of the disadvantages are she would not have a regular daily contact with my sister who's living in Oldham. That's one option. That's one disadvantage. What are the other disadvantages?
She was eating quite a lot of takeout food.
No, that's not correct.
From what the assessment that I read. So if that is correct. Then in Oldham she's getting a cooked meal, fresh meal, whatever.
When you say takeout meal, that comes with a connotation that's junk food, but you can get good food from takeaways as well. Is that really a disadvantage?
I'm looking at it objectively, there's something I might say, but it's not to do with me really. So, Natalie,
sorry, can I just clarify what actually is the option on the table at primary way? Is it FB living there being cared for by you, Mr. Hussein, or is it
That's what
in a
we-
rate
we-
property
yeah,
with
is
having
your
a care
yeah, this
going
is-
in, like, I think it really helps us
Yeah.
to understand what the option is.
Okay,
there.
and this is what we're discussing now. So where we're at is that we've discussed all the other options, but particularly Oldham. Now, I just wanted to go around the table and ask what are the disadvantages?
See, I mean, I don't know, so I can't have an opinion, but just when I'm working with people with dementia, sometimes if somebody's happy
Yeah.
where they are,
Yeah.
it is a gamble
Okay,
to
yeah.
try that.
Yeah.
So that's just something, but I mean, that's just for you to
Okay.
consider.
So that's one point.
But I'm just wondering about your sister, is that an option though for your sister to continue to provide that care in primary way? Is that a possibility?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, these are all advantages. I'm just looking at the disadvantages. So I'm gonna highlight them. What you've said is that my sister's not gonna be able to provide 24-hour care.
You're okay, the sun's right in your eyes.
Yeah, it's
You're
I
right.
can't close it, I've tried to.
It's alright, it's okay. It's all right. That's one disadvantage. The other disadvantage is that I think this has been raised by Ms. Bashir, but when people got dementia, moving them is always kind of traumatic and stuff like that.
It's a risk, yeah.
That's right. The third thing I would like to weigh in is that I personally at the start of this meeting said it's not really an appropriate place for my mother presently because of the lack of cleanliness, clutter, and you've been there, Miss Bean, haven't you? So I would say that's a disadvantage.
Okay,
Right?
that's easily remedied, surely though.
I'm just going through all the
Yeah.
all the disadvantages.
Yeah.
All right. So those are, I'm just going to obviously tick those off one by one, yes. So those are the disadvantages of her returning. All right. What other problems are there for her coming back to Bradford?
Well, I suppose we don't know from you what your view on that is, because she's obviously.
I'm a very articulated person. I'm sure I've made that quite clear.
I honestly, I don't know what your, because she's living in Oldham, and really that's at your, you know, that's with your agreement. So is that?
What
Would
what
she have
would
a care
you?
package in
Well,
primary?
yeah, well, okay, that's fine. Well, so these are some of the problems, okay? So with regards to, I mean, I just want to look at all the problems first before look at the advantages.
So my concern would be who's
Yep.
gonna do the personal
Yeah,
care?
okay, all right.
You obviously have a son,
Yeah,
you know.
So that would be a
wouldn't
concern.
Be an option.
Yeah.
So yeah, who would be doing all the personal
okay,
care
okay,
for
all right.
her? That would be one
But
of
that's
the-
not a disadvantage necessarily, is it?
Well, it's not a disadvantage, but
It's
it's
a concern.
to us.
It's a concern, all right. We can decide. I just wanted to focus on what are the. I'll clearly explain to you what the proper, really disadvantages are of her residing in Oldham, because those are really two only options, aren't they? Yeah. Some of the problems my sister's experiencing, but I would just like to weigh in that. Let's just, for argument's sake, say she stays in Oldham. One of the other problems is that we've got this mobility vehicle issue. So that was going to be withdrawn. The mobility vehicle is going to be withdrawn, number one. And number two is that if she stays in Oldham, her tenancy is going to be terminated. So there's a home that she's been lived with and for a very number of years.
Is
So
that the tenancy in Bradford?
that's the tenancy in Bradford, yeah.
Yeah.
So she's had this, she's been, I'm quite glad that you, Mr. Burgess, you mentioned regarding her, you know, moving somebody who's in an environment who's got dementia, and how that can have an adverse effect on their mental health.
It may not, it might, yeah.
Yes. She's lived at this property since 2004. It's something that she's very familiar with, alright, so she's been living there. The only reason that we have moved my mother to Oldham, and it's something at a great deal of risk to both my mother and to my sister, because my sister also has many health issues herself. We took on that risk simply because of this court proceedings. Alright, so if the decision to move my mother to Oldham to support my sister, for my sister to care for her, was under as I explained several times, under a contractual agreement. Basically, my sister's services have been commissioned by me to provide those support services. Alright?
Yeah.
So she's not doing it for free, even though she may say those services have been directly commissioned by me.
Yeah.
Alright?
Yeah.
And therefore there are personal costs to me while she's providing the support. Yes, there's a religious and cultural need, but when it comes down to it, money makes a big difference.
So are you paying
Well, I've
ZB to
said-
provide the care?
As far as you're concerned, you should view it as that. I'm not financially
So
doing
that's
that.
what you're telling us, you're paying your sister.
I've explained to you that why are you putting words into my mouth for?
You said you've commissioned.
That's right, yes.
So,
And payment exists in what form? Monetary. Like I said,
Yeah,
I don't think Mrs. Salim's
Can I-
contribution is very
I
conducive.
just want to, when you moved your mother in 2018,
No. Who says that?
okay, so when did your mother move then?
My
to-
mother moved in February 2019.
Okay,
Alright? When you started to come and visit.
okay.
So as a
I-
result of your involvement, and yes, and what needs to be made clear is that the reason that initially my mother moved back from my sister for a short period, because all of 19 she was receiving best care support. So it's fully documented when she was receiving your support, alright, packaged by the authority. She stopped receiving, it's okay, she stopped receiving that care package in November 2020. 19, okay, for a period of 3 weeks. And the reason that was because the local authority had incarcerated me into prison, alright, so I was practically prevented from providing her with support. So that's what happened in November 2019. Then what happened is that Miss Annie Bateson wrote out saying that, and this is the point of concern, is that I think a month later she's writing to my sister in Oldham who was just being...
all this history, what we're trying to look at is what's in Mrs. Baker's best interest. So I'm really, what's your view, sir, because we've still not heard it, would you?
Well, I'm going to come to those, but so we've discussed all the other views. My views are this, okay? So my mother should move back to live with us to her own home and take up her, normal residency. I personally find it very difficult to understand why that would not happen.
Okay.
I'm still struggling to understand, but before we move on to I'm giving everybody else an opportunity now, because the reason I've done that is because I have a tendency to lionize on a conversation, as Miss Bean and others can verify. I talk too much sometimes, so I wanted to give everybody else an opportunity to fully express what their positions are. But the reality of this is that we're here today, and it's something that Ms. Burgess, you can agree with. I contest that my mother lacks mental capacity as is defined by the Mental Capacity Act 2005.
Well, that's an issue for the court.
Yes, that's fine, yes. So first of all, this best interest meeting can only take place once it's been established that my mother lacks mental capacity. So I just want to go around, and as it stands today, has it been established?
Yes, we're in the court of protection. The court of protection is on this.
It's not established, has it? Is it not concluded?
There are interim declarations in
Interim
place.
declaration.
Right, okay.
But it's not been established.
It's sufficient for the process, because the court of protection.
Yes, I understand all that. But as it stands, I'm quite technical.
An interim declaration is sufficient for the proceedings.
Yes, that's
so
fine.
the court's got jurisdiction, because it's been determined that for the time being, at least, was it Dr. Singh did an assessment, is that correct? Sugar Singh was under assessment.
Okay, so
But I mean, if you wish to, that's another issue, if you wish to contest that, if you wish to say that actually you can
I mean, you asked my views and opinions, just like everybody else has had views and opinions, I'm giving my views and opinions, yes?
Mr. Hussein, sorry, I appreciate what you're trying to do with the positives and negatives and weighing it up.
Yeah.
I think from our perspective, I don't fully understand what the option of going back to Bradford looks like. Is that any different to how it was before, or will it be exactly as it was before?
Well, this is what, you're jumping the gun there, this is what we're going to discuss now.
I'm sorry.
Okay, alright. So I just wanted to express my views. My views as it presently stands are that my mother does, I've looked at the legislation as well. As it stands, my mother does not lack mental capacity as is defined by the Mental Capacity Act.
Okay.
Alright, so therefore, any best interest meetings, I'm looking to challenge those best interest, so you can make those decisions. Those will only take place, and I do understand that there have been interim orders, and obviously I'm part of the process, yes. I look to challenge, first and foremost, challenge Dr. Shubhra Singh's assessment of the situation, alright? But I'm just conscious of the fact of the time and everything else, that may be not the best, this is maybe not the best environment to do that. We're just here to discuss the options available on the table with regards to her moving back to Bradford.
And your opinion,
yes.
Your opinion is a move to primary way.
Okay.
Am I correct in that? That's what you said previously?
Yes, that's right, yes, that's right.
And the negative things about a move back to Bradford were the house has been placed cluttered.
Yes.
I didn't make that many notes on that. What else was there? What was?
I think it was being said that something sister not having contact.
Your sister would not have contact?
Well, regular daily, like the one Zaida not having, but she can come and visit every time. She would not be providing 24-hour care. No. Alright, as she is doing now, which is a great deal of strain on her. The other negative aspects was that there was some concern of who would be providing the care. Alright, and obviously yourself saying that it would be a move that would be not in her, like mentally.
Maybe, I don't know.
Well, let's just address that issue. First of all, my mother's been travelling from Oldham to Bradford, having a shower. It's not done her any bit of difference.
Okay, that's interesting.
Alright.
So she's still doing that?
No, we've explained we're not doing that anymore.
No, but so for how long is it since she's been back to Bradford? About a year?
Since the order was put in place, yeah. So it's been it's been several months.
So the order,
November 2018.
Does the order actually prohibit then, even just for a visit?
That's how I interpreted it.
I thought it was to live. Okay.
Okay. So anyway, but that's not been happening. But I personally think that my mother's world view is very small. So as long as it's not so much the environment, and I think those questions are kind of futile. I think, as you can appreciate, human beings are human creatures. As long as it's contact, that's more important.
What would it look like then if she came back to live in Bradford, would
Okay,
it,
right.
she'd be living with you and Tally?
That's correct,
Back
yes.
at Primary Way?
Yes.
And what would her day look like? How would it work
Well,
out for her?
the only thing that would be different than what was before is we would not have the intervention of the local authority.
Right, and how would you provide care
Well,
for her?
I've just explained here that I can approach my sisters, my niece, okay? I'll approach my neighbours, but what we don't want is we don't want professional input, alright?
I just had, when I did speak to one of your neighbours on your, I think they've known your mother since she moved in, on the right side of your house, a gentleman came out, and he did say to me that before your mother had the stroke, she used to go to her house quite often when his mother was alive. And he goes, but since then they've never seen your mother, they'd only ever seen Tally.
And that's correct, isn't it? Because my mother's living in...
So if your mum did go back to 20 Primary Way, say, you cleaned it up, you didn't have the local authority involved. So you're saying your niece, Jagufta, your sister, Shahida, who you feel that, is she appropriate to provide care for your mum?
Can you just discuss about the neighbour? You started off with the neighbour.
I'm just saying your neighbour was saying that when prior to your mother having the stroke, your mother used to go out, and she knew the neighbourhood, and she used to go to their house quite a lot.
That's correct.
But then after a stroke, she stopped going.
And why was that?
Because she wasn't able to walk there and be supported.
She was receiving care, that's correct, yes.
Okay.
And then,
so what I'm asking is, what you're saying, she'll go back home, she'll live at 20 Primary Way, you won't have the local authority involved, who would provide for care? Would she go to going? Your niece?
Yeah, she said she's going.
Calder's daughter, would she be going?
No,
Is it Calder's or Nazma's?
No, Nazma's daughter.
So Nazma's daughter will be going to provide care, and you say she lives 5 minutes away, okay. So you'd have Zahida coming as well?
Zahida can come as well, yeah.
Who you've said is under a lot of strain, but she'll be coming all the way from okay.
Right.
But Shahida wouldn't be involved.
Why would Shahida not be involved?
And Calder, okay,
Why
so
not?
you're saying Shahida would be involved.
Why would they not be involved?
Okay.
Why would they not be involved?
So would Adalat be involved?
Why would Adalat not be involved? Adalat has never expressed that he wouldn't come to Primary Way.
So you're saying all the family would?
Why not?
Okay. Yeah, but you've also said Adalat, Calder, Zahida,
they have their own beef.
Shahida, they don't get on.
Yes.
So I'm just trying to understand
Who's
how care.
Who's going to be providing the care?
The personal care.
Yes.
Okay, so the personal care, obviously, this is a discussion that I've had with Miss Shazi as well, is that obviously we can buy private care.
I was just going to ask that question, So when you're saying you don't professional what you just mean you don't want council funded involvement, you're perfectly alright to... Alright.
We can, I mean, obviously I've approached certain agencies, okay, I mean, this is if it was not for myself, if I was married, alright, this would not be a problem, would it? And obviously that is obviously an option on the table as well if I can get married and have a wife that can provide care. Obviously there's something I've been looking into as well. I feel very uncomfortable discussing this at this table.
No, I understand. I appreciate that.
Alright, but the reality is that because of the history that we've had with the local authority, and particularly that I've made it quite clear, I mean I have an ongoing conflicted relationship, not so much with Mr. Salim because obviously he's held accountable to somebody, you're held accountable to somebody, is Bev Maybury, the prior director. I've obviously have a grievance with regards to how Bradford Council providing care and support to vulnerable people. But with regards to the care, let's just look at this option. Let's say if my mother comes back and you were to provide support services. Miss Salim knows the fact that I have cameras everywhere, alright? And she knows the fact that I've made this as an issue with regards to the local authority, that if somebody's if you're coming into my property and you're not bringing any smartphones in,
but it's not your property, is it your mother's?
Yeah, but you know, I don't think that's conducive. I don't think that's conducive having those interjections. But I would just like to say, whether she's coming, I live there, that's my home, yes, and I'm providing the primary carer, and I'm the administrator, and I'm the I'm the primary carer, and I'm the administrator, and I have to ensure my brothers, just like you, I have to ensure my brothers' safety and rights are protected. All right. So that's all I'm trying to do is that if council workers are coming in, exposes them to a great deal of risk, and it exposes myself and my family to a great deal of risk. So that's why I have to put this precautionary measures in place. All right. So I just can't see how you know through our reluctance you're going to force care. I'm just struggling with that.
No, we're not asking about that. But we're just asking you how would it look, because as you can understand, you know, the council we and Pip as a decision maker, we would need to know what would her day look like, who would be there on a night, what would 24 hours, how would all of her needs that we've assessed her as having, how would every single one of those needs be met, even if it wasn't anything
my answer to that is, what business is of yours,
Well, it
number
is-
one, no, just one, number one, no, what business is of yours, number one, and number two is, why have you not done that before when my mum moved to, Oldham?
The answer to that will probably come under section 42 of the care act, because there'll end up being a safeguarding.
Alright, section 40,
yeah,
so what was
it's
that section?
Section 42 of the care act, it's the
Section-
duty to inquire if there's safeguarding,
Section-
there's concerns about it. Well, this is jumping the gun,
Yeah,
there would have to be concerns in the first place. Whereas there's lots of people out there who self-fund care,
Yeah.
and we're not involved, and
Yeah.
there's no reason for it, and she wouldn't be eligible anyway, so.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, but
She
the
wouldn't
fact
be
that
from,
Yeah.
she wouldn't be, but in terms of from professional point of view, we'd like to go and review the care package that was in place.
We'd have to have a reason for it.
I would object to that, because I would say, what's your justification?
Yeah.
Well, because personally, I feel, let's just put it on the table here. Me and Najim Salim have had complaints, I've lodged complaints about Najim Salim in the past.
We can kind of
No,
tell.
Yeah, I think
alright.
that's-
So we've had some conflicts. I believe that this is a personal vendetta by Najim Salim pursuing that.
I can't allow, what I can't allow is
Yeah.
personal stuff, and it's clear stuff between the two of them. I know it's really difficult.
Yes, but she's the assessment manager, you understand?
But not,
Alright, let's move it forward, let's just move forward.
Isn't the fact, Ian, that we're in the situation that we're in with the court protection, that we are in that situation, Pip is the decision maker. And that is why we need to, I know you're saying you don't want to tell us, but that's why we can't make a decision until you tell us what
that's
is
fair.
24 hours gonna look like.
Okay,
for your
alright.
mum,
So
if
in
that's
oth-
what you're proposing.
in other words, Trudy, what
And
you're saying is,
that's-
you're trying to convince Pip
Yeah.
to look for a move to Bradford.
Do you have a support
That's-
plan in
okay.
mind?
Do you have a sport plan in mind?
If she stayed where she is now?
Yeah, you have a sport plan in mind?
I think what we'd like to do is actually talk to your sister, do a carer's assessment,
yeah.
see how we can support her, look at safe
That's not
and
gonna
sound
happen, is it, though?
technology.
That's not gonna happen, is it,
And
though?
then, in terms of ordinary residents, needs to be determined as well.
But that's not
Then
gonna happen, though, because my
occupational
sister does
therapist
not wanna
assessment.
engage with you, she's quite
No.
frustrated, I mean, what,
So
so
what
what
I'm
happened?
saying is it's difficult because if we can't have that engagement, it won't be me who's engaging with your
Well, can
sister,
I-
it won't be.
Just looking completely from the outside here, what's the bad thing that's happening to Mrs. Bacon right now?
I think the issue is that what you've said to us, and it's a he is struggling now in terms of, and she does need some kind of respite as a carer, so it's how she could be supported to sustain that as well safely, and the moving and handling issues around her, the way she's given her bath, is it safe or not? So we would have some kind of duty towards the carer.
While she's living in Oldham.
Well, when ordinary residence is determined, then it would be over.
Well, she's living in Oldham, it's for Oldham Social Services.
That's
Yeah,
correct, yes.
then we
It's the
would
whole
have to, but
authority.
we haven't even determined that.
Yes.
No, okay.
But what, I mean, other than, alright, what, you said 24 hours, Cal, what's wrong with my mother coming home? We're having private agency, alright, providing, you're saying it's self-funded, alright, so what would be the issue there? What, I'm just failing to understand why.
What would you ask the private carers to do for your mum?
Well, basically, I can provide her with all other support, just, I can't provide her with personal care.
No.
Personal care.
Alright, that is the only sticking block, isn't it? The personal care. If I was female, I feel like discriminated against, because if I was female, we wouldn't be having this conversation, would we?
Well, if you felt that you could provide the personal care for your mum, and your mum was happy with that, then we
Well, I
wouldn't
would
be
think-
having this
I
conversation,
still
but
feel
obviously
it-
it's not something that you're happy with.
No, it's not. I think it's culturally very inappropriate for me to provide her with personal
So
care.
it's not, it's about culture, isn't it?
Yes,
It's not-
that's right,
it's
yes.
not-
But the reality is that these are decisions that has there been any concern regarding the quality of care that I've provided her with? Ever?
I don't know.
Well, is another case that we went to court and you prosecuted me, and even the judge said there was never ever issues regarding care. There may be
We
costs.
never prosecuted you.
You did prosecute me, yes. Who prosecuted me?
But no,
To date, I've been looking after my family members, alright, since at least 2000. I consider myself an expert when it comes to caring, and I've made this quite clear to yourself, alright. I charge a high deal amount for my caring costs. Just 1 second, go ahead.
Sorry, I know you said that you'd ask the private carers to do personal care, but I know that you're also a carer to your brother.
Yes.
Are there any other instances where you think you might need an extra pair of hands if your mum was living with you as well?
No.
So nothing about mobility?
No.
No
Nothing.
medication? Nothing?
Nothing else. The only reason that is an issue is because I feel it's objectionable that I should be providing personal care. Do you understand? Like changing my mother's incontinent pads.
Yeah.
That's the only sticking area.
The other thing that you may have an issue with, and again, it's not this, but just chipping in, is if you were going to a private agency, you mentioned cameras, they might also, but I don't know, there's some might not be, but they might also say, well, we're not happy with that.
Oh, that's
And it's a possibility.
And if we're paying, we have leverage. You understand? I can say, well, that's up to you. I can make that quite clear, yes. But but with regards to is it not true that all other issues that or concerns that you have, the main one is this personal care?
Well, in addition to
Any
that, at the moment, your mum, as far as we know, your mum's always with somebody. So she's never left on her own.
And that's very important, yes.
So how would you be there all the time, 24/7? How would that work out for you?
Okay.
Would you say, oh, I'm going to pay a private provider to be there for a few hours?
Presumably she'd be paying herself, wouldn't she?
You know, yeah.
Okay. Well, when like I said, I'm an expert on this. I'm a self-proclaimed expert simply because you know the fact that Mr. Salim can verify this. I looked after my father with dementia. I looked after him for over 6-7 years. Are you okay?
No, I'm just conscious that, I mean, we could talk here all evening by the sound of it. It's 20 to 5. I do want to, you're going to need to, do you need to have some time, when you finish, I'm going to come back to you in a second, sir. Do you need to have a talk with your line managers before and then reconvene and then we can say, alright, sorry, that's all I was looking at the time.
Okay, that's right. So I was just saying that, you know, obviously, what I do, my mother had a stroke in September 2017. My sister said that she's not going to survive. The doctor said she's not going to survive. I nursed her back to health. So what I do, this is what I do. I provide care. I'm very good at what I do. I take my role very, very seriously with regards to pendants and these are just tick box exercises with regards to home delivery of food and stuff. You know, like Meals on Wheels. These are all. I am there 24/7, 7 days a week. I'm providing care. I provide care for my brother Talib. In the past, it's been a lot more difficult because I've had responsibilities for Nazim, who was in a care home. My father, who required 24-hour care 7 days a week, and my brother Talib and my mother as well. So with regards to caring, I can give you full reassurance, but that's up to yourselves to believe that my mother will have no issues with regards to care. The only problem is that I've explained to yourself is that personal care, I cannot give personal care because of the gender issue.
So to summarise all of this then, return to Bradford would mean tidying up the property somewhat, commissioning some independent private sector care, and that would be it. Or remaining where she is with just maintain the status quo and then possibly look at all the adaptation things. That's too.
And also, I just wanted to add. I just want to add to this as well. Just a couple of points I just wanted to add. First of all, that because my mother's living there, there's a financial cost to me. All right. So first of all, because now the council are billing me for council tax for nearly £2,000. All right. So that's obviously, I feel that's been discriminated against. So it was my mother's tendency that the decision regarding where she's going to reside has not happened. But as far as the council tax are concerned, the council tax are now billing me over.
You need to take that over.
I know we all seem like we're all the council, but
that's not for this meeting.
I understand this, but obviously I'm giving my views. All right, so that's over £2,000 of cost I'm having to bear. All right, just because my mother's living there. All right, that cost would not have to be incurred by me. All right, so that's these are considerations. The Motability vehicle is going to be removed. All right,
that's a DWP decision.
Well, it's something that Ms. Mullins could quickly sign off on. But obviously, if my mother was to come back, there would not be any more Motability issues. All right.
Should keep the car as you.
Yeah, basically, yeah. So I can basically continue to provide her with support. So that's option number 2. And with regards to what concerns me is, I've had a meeting today prior to this meeting with the GP practice here. I'm not sure if you're aware of this. My mother's medical records are not arrived here as yet. Right, and you can confirm with them regarding this. All I can say is that I keep a meticulous record on my mother's records. Right, that is my mother's medical record card dated 1969. That's a record on my mother's Department of Health and Social Welfare dated September 88.
Have you spoken to CCGs about that?
Just hold on a second, alright. So I'm just giving my opinions, okay? So as it presently stands, these actions that you've taken, i.e. that have resulted in my mother going to live in Oldham, my sister's door being broken in, all these other actions could be eliminated right here, right now, if you just withdraw your application because you've got no safeguarding.
We didn't bring her to Oldham, you brought her to Oldham.
Why was that? You're
But nonetheless,
Mr. Lee,
we'll-
Mr.
I'm
Lee,
just
that's
saying,
not
I'm just
constructive.
trying to get
All right,
facts
all right,
here,
Mr.
because
Lee,
you're
your
saying
comments have never been constructive. All I'm just trying to say is that.
Please, can we might disagree, but we can respect.
Okay, I'm being respectful. I don't think our views are constructive. I think they're detrimental to what I'm trying to say. You've asked me my opinion.
Yes.
I've clearly explained to yourself that if there's financial costs being incurred by me, there's resources that are being depleted by both myself and my sister while my mother's staying in Oldham, is having a debt. And let's just go back to my mother. What are her wishes? If she was here, what would her wishes and views be? Is it not true that when in September 2012, when she tried to go into a care home, all she wanted to do was to return to her son? So I think if my mother was here today, and I hope you all recognise, the most important person in my mother's life is not my sister Zaida. It's not. No, it's not me.
I would have thought it was you.
No, it's my brother Talib.
All right.
Okay, and I think that really needs to be fully. My brother Talib now resides, and I've just clearly demonstrated to you one of the reasons that he didn't stay in the care home, and she was and she didn't take up Carmen Community Centre because she was worried about her son. All right. And that would make sense. I would love it for me to be the most important person in my mother's life. I would love that to be the case. But the reality is that she feels obligated because she is a vulnerable person, and she's been caring for him in the past. And so, although Miss Bean saying that she would not get my sister Zaida on a daily basis, but what she would get is her son. Alright, and everything else, and Zaida not coming to Bradford is simply because she's providing personal care and support, which we can commission in. Alright, but I think that's what's been lost in here. We can all
spend a lot of time in Oldham, because one of the pictures that you sent of supposedly your mother on the floor, Talib was sleeping on one of the beds. So
yeah, but
okay, but we are just. I'm just going to come back to, because we are getting towards the end, but it's really helpful. You told us all about the thing with the medical record, the cost, the fact that it's up. So this is all just feeding back to yourself now. Has anybody? Do you want to spend a bit of time talking with your line manager and then return to the meeting?
I'm sorry, who's your line manager? Alright, and your manager is?
It's Dean now, Dean Roberts.
But it's also Lynn Sarr, it's a job share.
No, it's Dean.
It's a job share.
I answer to Dean, he's my line manager, not me. No.
But the position is a job share, isn't it?
It may be a job share, but my manager is now Dean Roberts.
Okay, alright. While you have that discussion, is it okay if I have a quick discussion with Mr. Chukwuemeka while you're here? Is that okay? I just wanted to clarify something with yourself. I mean,
I'm again here for the purpose.
I understand.
I'm not willing to discuss anything outside what's being.
Well, I mean, I think it's very relevant, but I mean, if you're not willing to discuss, I can't force you. Yeah, that's fair enough.
Okay. So should we just, it's 10 minutes, okay, then we'll come back. It's now 10 to 5 nearly. How long do you think you might need? A few minutes? 5 minutes. I know I was rushing you, but
Do you mind if I just check your brothers and sisters' surnames?
Okay, yes,
So Shahida is
I think it's Shahida B. Hussain.
yeah.
Zahida Begum.
Yep, got that one.
Okay.
Adalat.
Adalat Hussain. Talib Hussain.
Yep.
And just to clarify, my name is Sajjad Hussain.
Yep.
Better known as Shahzad Hussain.
And your niece Shagufta.
Shagufta B.
Thank you. Obviously, I will be putting the names in here, but it's just so I get the right
that's fair
initials.
enough, that's fair enough,
Yeah.
that's fair enough.
Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome.
so where is it actually from then? Where is it? Are you Bradford or Oldham?
Undercliff. We're from Undercliff, sorry.
Oh, Undercliff, right.
Are you from Bradford?
No, I'm not from Bradford.
Where are you from?
Lancashire, Greater Manchester. Yeah.
Is
My
your
family's
job-
from my family's actually from here, from Oldham.
Are they? Are you from Oldham then, yeah?
No, my family's originally, yeah.
Alright.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
but it's been strange being around here because I've got memories of
Oh,
when I
yeah.
was a kid, you know. And,
Alright, yeah. Where about in Oldham are you from? What area?
my mum's from Edgerton Street. I used to think Oldham was called Oldham because it was all old people lived here. That's why
Okay, alright.
that's why I thought it was called Oldham, you know.
Okay, alright.
So I was just saying before you arrived, it was quite peculiar driving through the town and sort of having flashbacks to when I was 8 years old. I've forgotten it all. You know, it's it's peculiar.
That's what I feel about Bradford as well. I mean, I obviously have an issue with the local authority, but it's still home though. You know, you can go all the way, it's just the streets that you grow up in, and you have fond memories as a child, those don't go away, and so you still have a certain like connection.
Yeah. I don't know Bradford.
Yeah,
I told
sure.
I work there, but I was in Oldham
Yeah,
before.
Yeah.
So Bradford, I'm really lost in Bradford.
Well, at least they've got good curry houses. Would you say that, or are you?
I think Bolton's better. Yeah. Okay. Which one? Not Montage, surely.
We don't go out to much curry houses. The only one that my brother enjoys going is Sultan.
Oh, I don't know. Oh yes, I do.
It's near, you know where, on Manningham Road, Manningham Lane, yeah. It's very, it looks very dilapidated. It's not all that, but the food is exquisite.
No, I don't know.
The food that counts.
Yeah.
I've been to loads.
Thank you.
I thought Montage was overrated.
Yeah. Expensive though.
Kashmir was good.
Yeah. Have you been down Manchester Road? Because obviously I spent my time here studying. I was in Manchester. Alright, so I was living with my sister and we were travelling, and Manchester's known for that curry mile, isn't it?
Oh, what, Rush Hour? Is it Rush Hour?
Yeah. Curry mile is known.
I like kebabish.
Yeah.
The kebabish was great. I don't know, yeah. I sometimes feel if you get lots of curry houses together, the quality's a bit lower. It's almost a bit touristy sometimes. But that's just my two kind of, you know. But yeah, I like the good curry. Don't get enough.
It's a national dish. Actually, I was having a debate with somebody, right? And obviously, you would think that what's the national dish? Right? It used to be fish and chips. Is it curries now? It's actually not. It's not actually. It's what is it? Chinese.
Oh, is it?
I didn't know that as well. You know, I think it overtook the curries. The Chinese.
I don't know where in Bradford.
Yeah, I always thought it was chicken tikka masala, which I was down my nose.
Yeah. But it's quite surprising. I mean, Chinese is the national dish.
No.
Right.
Yeah. There's not much to commend English food though, really, is there?
I think the price of cod now is going off the roof. Just too expensive. Yep.
Think it might get higher. Now we're not in Europe.
Yeah. Well, that's another.
Do you want that, by the way?
Yeah, sure.
That's it's just guidance. It's really good guidance.
Right.
But that's interesting. I printed off loads because I was going to refer to it, and I didn't need to refer to it in the end anyway.
Well, I think it's good for my record, but like I said, obviously we're looking to bring this matter to a close, much like everybody else is as well, yeah. And obviously, I believe that my mother still has capacity, so I'll be looking to pursue that.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. Sorry about my phone going off.
No, it's okay, it's alright. Happens.
I thought it wasn't silent, but it was still on vibrate. I think you got away with it.
I used to do invigilating in the exams. And we used to have salt strips to put all the forms up front in the thing. And often the exam was the forms, wasn't it? They didn't say explicitly, turn your phones off, put them in your bag and put them at the front.
Apologies, that's my
They didn't do it.
So they're all going off.
Yeah. Would they not?
Yeah.
Vibrating bands all over.
That's correct, so it's a delaying time for that, but thank you very much
Do
for
some
flagging it. I will
drinking
raise
tomorrow and
it.
all this.
Okay.
Don't mess.
So just for your clarity, I mean, obviously I'll be objecting to Dr. Hussein's report. I think that's.
Hello?
Okay.
I mean, I can imagine that, but as you know, we haven't given our final position yet, 'cause we just want to get
And this meeting, have you got
It's just
clear
part and parcel
understanding?
every day, and I
Well,
think
this
it's
is another really
youngsters who don't think anything about it. It's like,
I don't know,
you
not
have a
questions, but with
conversation,
regards
it's
to,
like a conversation.
obviously.
My niece and nephew will sit at opposite ends at front room.
Okay. I mean, I think the present position is should my mother
It
reside
doesn't have
at
to be today.
Oldham or come to
Weird,
Bradford.
someone in the office, and then you start having a chat with them, and then the phone rings.
understand what happens at each option.
Okay, well, I'm
Someone
gonna
just walked up to you and started interrupted your conversation. You wouldn't
Yeah, and I
have
don't
it,
think it's a good idea to discuss
Yeah.
outside.
Yeah. I mean, but you're saying you don't. I mean, I think it's been quite clear what the options are. You're still need to understand what the.
Well, I was trying to get some more information about what that option looked
No,
like,
it's
and
not.
I've got a much better idea, but
Do you have
Yeah.
any
If there is one.
no, as I said, I'm expecting to keep it in the meeting. Hamish, have you seen her today?
Yes, I have, yes. I think you came in late, I was explaining that we've had relatives come over. So she's been, and that's, obviously my sister couldn't come because obviously we've had relatives come over, yes.
Is she enjoying it?
Enjoying what?
Having relatives?
Yeah, of course we would.
A lot of the
Limbo.
comments that we might be able to bring forward don't really appropriate.
Yeah, I suppose.
If it's strictly welfare.
Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to raise that technical issue with you about people having capacity being able to, with the personal welfare power of attorney, and then with the property and affairs power of attorney. But you already did it.
Yeah, I think, I mean, obviously I've been in this field for a long time, simply because of my brother and stuff. And I think, before it used to be called receivership, alright, before the 2005 legislation came in place. And I think the parliamentarians were trying to say that, you know, obviously there needs to be a specific decision made regarding, particularly regarding end-of-life care. Because if you remember, there was that Liverpool pathways and stuff, and it was, well, if you're going to be on a pathway, at least you should have a choice of giving that power to somebody when you're incapacitated. I think it was used for, it was good to divide it, because prior to that there was just only receivership. The receivership.
Yeah, they had enduring powers of attorney, but they were just,
yeah,
and that was a bit strange as well, because that was kind of, they kind of came into effect when somebody was on the cusp of losing capacity. I don't know, you could be on the cusp of losing capacity. You don't see many of those these days.
No, I think they're phased out, aren't they?
I mean, yeah, I mean, if there's people, they still exist, but I mean, it's just unlikely now that you meet someone who's still got one. I can't remember the last time I saw an enduring power of attorney.
Electric lights and.
But anyway, yeah.
You end up with eyes sticky in your head.
Thank you for all that, by the way.
Yeah, no worries. Obviously, I'm here to acting in my mother's best interest to ensure that, you know, obviously her wishes can be expressed. I'm just concerned that the situation has escalated to this level.
Yeah, I appreciate that. What time are we on anyway? No, it's not too bad. 5 to. I said we said 5 o'clock, didn't we?
Yeah.
So we're okay. I don't know how long we've had this room for, is it?
I've got no idea.
I think it's still good. I don't know.
I don't know, nobody else would come in here now, will they? I wouldn't have thought so.
No.
Be ready for it.
Although I was doing some teaching, what I was teaching, I was doing some stuff at Lancaster University. And it got to 4:30, and I was thinking, that's the end of it. And there was a group of students were all coming in, what are you doing coming in at this time? And they were so keen.
Yeah.
So at Lancaster University, they're all really, really eager.
Well, when I used to work, we used to run twilight classes.
Really?
Yeah, that started at 5 o'clock. She did a morning one, an afternoon one, a twilight one, and night
How
one.
do you get students to do that? That's what I couldn't understand with Lancaster, because if it's
The
a Bradford College, you have to
The
do.
job come at tea time and first thing in the morning.
I suppose.
And I had a job when I was at uni, so it would have been actually quite good for me to go in the evening.
In the evening,
Yeah.
yeah.
I suppose, yeah.
Lots of students have to work as well as
Student, I get that option.
Yeah.
It's just that from Bradford College, it's like herding cats to try and get them in.
Yeah, I used to teach at the university and it was a graveyard shift. Yeah. 5 or 6. I'd never get anyone there.
No. But at Lancaster, they were queuing at the door to come in at 4:30, and I'm yeah. Different cultures and different universities.
Yeah. And I think, you know, the student body has to, the student body had to stay in. You know, whether they wanted to. No point running twilight classes if nobody's going to come to them. They wanted to be there. So.
Okay. Okay, thanks for coming back. So we're just pretty much towards the end of this meeting, and just to I think what everybody's got to say. Hope there's anybody I've not asked or who's not had the opportunity to say. So I'm just going to ask if you're able to give a decision on where you're at with your position, and then if you want to, if anybody wants to comment on that, you're welcome to. So, Pip, as the decision maker.
Well, based on our assessments and the information gathered today, our position would be that FB remains in Oldham.
Okay.
Based on the fact that our needs have been met, yes, the bathing is not the best, but it's how her personal hygiene needs are being met at the moment. She's clean, she's tidy, she's not neglected. We could look at VOT again and getting more equipment in there. Yes, we'd like to support ZB more, but we accept that if she refuses the carer's assessment and all the help that we've tried to give her over the months, you know, referring her to different agencies for support as a carer, we accept that we can't do any more than offer that help.
Is Talib okay there?
Yeah, it's fine, yeah.
Okay.
Why we're not saying primary way at the moment is because we're not satisfied how our care needs, how our personal care needs would be met at this moment in time.
Okay.
And that's our position.
And just out of curiosity, from my point, if an agency was to come forward and say to you, we are willing to do that or something, might that change anything, do you think? It's just because we can't, you don't have to. This is just for just not your position now, but that might be just something to consider.
It's not just personal care needs, is it? It's the whole picture. It's the whole well-being of Mrs. Bagan that
and
we're
how do you
concerned about. How does you know, Mr. Hussain is Talib's carer. How would he be available 24/7? You know, so there's all this, and I think that I sort of understand why you feel that you don't have to tell us how it'd look, how 24/7 would look. I sort of get it, but actually it's unhelpful, because it would be helpful if you would say this is what we're going to do, and if you worked with us, if we could work together, and it could all be transparent, but it isn't, and I think that we have tried, and this is the problem that we're facing, and so actually.
Okay, I mean, the issue that you have is my lack of transparency?
Well,
okay.
It is one of them.
Okay, alright, but obviously that issue is being hindered by your own actions. Alright, I have to weigh up equally my right to privacy, my brother Talib's right to privacy, my mother's right to privacy, and you're presently saying the fact that you've not identified what concerns that you would have other than, as you've mentioned, you know, the personal care can be provided. She's a self-funder, alright? If there had been a history of abuse or neglect or exploitation in regards to care, then I can understand the justification. But I believe, and I have always believed, that these actions are malicious, alright? And so therefore I cannot be, you're setting the bar so high. If I was even to attempt to meet that, you would just set even higher. Alright, and you're not providing me with a clear picture of what would satisfy you. I've explained to you that, you know, my mother would, I would not have an issue with my families coming over. Presently, there's one person that you've highlighted that is not coming to see my mother. That's her son. Alright, that would not be an issue when she was coming back to Bradford. Alright, all her children come on a visit. It's her house, as Mr. Lim has said. It's her house. You know, I'm obviously ensuring her well-being and safety. So I'm just really struggling to understand that your position remains to believe her in a situation where the person that's actually providing most of the care whom you're asking for, alright, has not fully been represented here, and I don't know how long it's sustainable for. Would you be?
She has been invited here.
Yeah, I know, I understand. But it's that issue, that sustainability of care. You know, care is not one-off. It's not tick box. It's about sustainability. And I'm just struggling to understand the position that you've taken. How is that sustainable?
I mean, this could be a matter for court now, really, but can I just ask?
I'm wanting to seek clarification, really, because I note that you've raised the issue of the lack of openness, transparency and engagement from Mr. Hussain, but would that not equally apply to Zahida, who hasn't even attended today, and by the time we only know what the wedding arrangements are through the YouTube video that was facilitated by Mr. Hussain?
Well, also from the visits, when we've been to see her and we've spoken with Zahida,
and I said,
how do you wash her, etc. So we've had conversations with Zahida.
But have there not been?
She has told you in the past, hasn't she, on a couple of occasions, that she will look after her mum forever. She feels that she feels it's a privilege to look after my mum. I love my mum. I'll do anything for my mum.
Right.
So that's her
It's not really
position.
the detail behind it, though, is it?
She has given.
That's just an intention, though, isn't it?
But the detail is, if somebody doesn't want to talk to you,
that's right. They don't want to talk to you.
But that's why I'm seeking clarification as to why that would be different from Mr. Hussein in that scenario.
Yeah.
Because the care that because we can see the care that she's receiving.
You've seen the outcome.
We can see the outcome of the care.
Yeah,
that
the
she's
outcome,
receiving.
not the work that's gone into it.
No,
Alright?
but we can see the
Alright,
outcome of the
and
care that
for
she's
example,
receiving.
it's about issue of sustainability. Let's say my mum stays there, the vehicle gets removed. Alright, we're then providing a crisis situation. Alright, which then would necessitate her going into care. So that's why I feel aggrieved over the fact that if she remains where she is, this is a great deal of resource strain on both me and my sister, because she is also struggling, as quite rightly she should be. She's been over a year. I'm providing her with this care and support. So she's presently struggling. The option that you have on the table is that one thing we don't want to do is we don't want to find ourselves coming more and more of these meetings, or more taking up both public resources and funds that are being squandered away of my mother's limited resources. So we want to find a best position for her. I fail to understand how you can still accommodate a state that your position remains the same, knowing the fact that if the vehicle is removed, I won't be able to provide her with support. So you're basically lining up a crisis situation that's going to happen. Can you tell me how the fact that my sister's been looking after my mum now through a great deal of my own assistance and support and coming from Bradford, right? Once the vehicle's removed, we're not able to do that. Then are you not just basically lining up a situation for a crisis to
I
happen?
will just comment, if I may, about the vehicle. We have had this on a number of occasions. The reason being, I cannot sign the mobility agreement because I can't satisfy the requirements.
And yes, that's fine.
And so I have no choice. I either break the law,
Alright.
so I can't sign it.
Okay.
So we have asked you on a number of occasions, if you want to put some proposals to me about other options, what you might be using the vehicle for, then I certainly can consider whether we would use and consider a taxi service, whether we purchase a vehicle, but I'm still waiting to hear from you with
Miss
that.
Mullins, the reason for that is because obviously, let's just say for argument's sake that your decision today was that my mother could come back to live with at her residency. Why would I then need to have that discussion with Miss Mullins?
I don't understand what
But if my mother could come back and take up her residency, she's residing back in Primary Way, then I wouldn't have to Miss Mullins wouldn't have to utilise my mum's money in order to get a taxi service. There's costs associated with that.
But it's asking you what you're using it for.
Miss Mullins, that's only relevant if my mother permanently remains at Oldham. That's only relevant.
And it is useful for us to know that, isn't it? Because that would be, it is a consideration, and that would be helpful to know.
Hold on a second. I'm just trying to say this. But that's only a consideration if my mother remains in Oldham. If my mother returns back to live at Primary Way, then that's no longer a consideration, is it?
What?
Yes, what?
Taxi and the.
Yeah, that's no longer a consideration, is it?
Wouldn't need to be.
Yeah, it wouldn't need to be, would it? So this is the pinnacle point I'm trying to explain to yourself. If my mother remains where she is, Miss Mullins she's clearly saying, look, I can't afford to sign off on this agreement. The vehicle is going to be removed. Alright? Alright, and then if the vehicle is removed, then what results is that my mum then has to pay excessive costs. Alright, because that mobility vehicle is designed for people that are on benefits, so it's very economically viable. The alternative, whatever I propose to Miss Mullins, is going to be exceptionally cost ineffective. A taxi could cost up to £30 to £40 per visit, one way, so you can compare. So it's every other option, alright.
It's not so much about that, it's the fact that I need to know why you're using the vehicle.
But no.
Just
hold on. Miss Mullins.
If it's just for visiting, then it's
No, Miss Mullins. The terms of the agreement are that you have to be, the mobility agreement, I'm sure you've looked into this. If the person who has a vehicle is residing at the same address, alright, then the mobility terms and agreements are not breached. But they only become a breach, and Mr. Lang has made it clear on 2 occasions. Because my mother is residing in Oldham, the terms are breached, number 1. And number 2 is that they need yourself to okay this. That's the second part, is because you're now my mother's DWP appointee.
No,
so there's been a change of appointee.
The second point is, if I may, is one, there is the mileage in that it needs to be within 5 miles, but also that it is used for your mother.
Yes.
And we haven't got that confirmation that you're
What-
using that car purely for your mother.
Where does it say purely or exclusively?
It's for the majority of the, I need to know what you're providing.
But Ms. Muller,
So
but once again, you know, Ms. Burgess, I take except, just 1 second, because I have already explained to you, you can see my
Okay.
mother had an accident.
We are
okay?
actually, to be fair, we are actually, with all of this conversation, we are getting away from the purpose of
Yeah,
the
yeah,
meeting,
yeah.
which was
Yes,
about the.
I just want to come back to the point of Miss Nary's decision, that because
Okay.
Miss Nary's decision is based on third parties, and it's not sustainable. Because once the
But that
motivation.
is her decision.
I understand.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to highlight to yourself that the decision
Yeah.
that you make is going to have. We're going to be returning to this situation numerous times in the future, because if you're saying that my mother needs to stay in Oldham, all right, then I'm not going to be able to provide her with care. That's correct, isn't it? If the mobility vehicle is taken, I can only provide her with ongoing care, and Talib can only visit her because we have the mobility vehicle.
But there are other options.
The other options are very expensive. It's not in financial. They're realming into
Okay.
the financial constraints. Because if the mobility vehicle is removed, all right, what are the other options to get a taxi service? That's an option, but it's financially in my mother's detriment. All right. And obviously it doesn't give me the freedom of coming over whenever I want to come over. So I think that those really need to be weighed up. I mean, if you made a decision, like I said, I would look to challenge this, but I think your decision of my mother staying there, this was only on a temporary basis, alright, and now you want it to be a permanent basis, simply because, for your own financial agenda, I believe.
I'm going to wrap this up, but I think just bear in mind though, this isn't the end, is it? This is just.
But it could have been the end today.
It could have been. Well,
Okay.
this is, or it could have been, but nonetheless though.
Okay, alright, what would have happened if Miss Nady's decision was that we're happy for your mum to return? What would have then been, going forward,
It's going to go back to the court.
No, I understand, but what would have happened then?
It would have had to have gone back to the.
I know, I understand.
Can we
this,
just
but-
wrap it up now?
Yeah.
We're going round in
Let me
circles.
see, we're going to get all this information.
Yeah,
by the
absolutely.
17th of
I
February
understand.
anyway.
I just feel
What's
aggrieved that I've come here, disclose all this information, and then for yourself to make a decision that's not in my mother's best interest.
Okay, this is their decision, and that's what's going to happen, and the decision is what they're going to take to court.
That's fair enough, that's fair
Well,
enough. Obviously, I feel that the decision's the wrong decision, it's not in my mother's best interest.
No.
It's not been justified that it's in my mother's best interest, and a crisis is going to happen, and obviously I hold yourself liable.
But that will be, that will work out in court though.
Yeah, well,
So-
obviously, all right, that's just,
May I have, and thank you very much everybody, and I'm going now.
He wants,
5:10.
I think he wants the agenda back then.
If that's
I'd
okay.
like to keep this.
Okay, well, it's not the end of the world, but I'd like to, I'll take these back here, because I'll shred all of this. Thanks.
Sorry, Ian, when you like to get the diligence on copies that you've got to buy by the 17th, would you want quite a quick turnaround on them?
Yeah, I'm presuming it can go to all people here before for the next year, so that's everybody there.
Yeah, but we'll have to come back with our agreements and any other.
Yeah, but you, again, if we do need an extension on file and everything, that will be more needed by that will be involved. If again, there's delay in the.
Well, you're not anticipating delay with the statement, or you should get it by the 17th.
I
don't-
Again, we will give